Then I'm going to say it louder, and then I want you to say it louder. And the third time, I'm going to yell as loud as I can, and I want y'all to blow me out the room so I fall through the wall right there, all right? Yeah. You got it?
Yeah, greetings, family. It's a pleasure to be back with you again on the PACM module session. As you know, this is a session that takes place every Sunday between 6 and 8. And today we are honored to have with you Irritated Genie, who today will be looking at the topic of survival of the African race in the 21st century. So again, the usual thing, he will be doing a presentation, and then after which we will open up the studio for discussion. Today in the studio, I also have Empress Devine, who has kindly joined us today, and also Elder Bini will be with us also shortly. So what I'd like to do now is pass you over to Brother Genie, who will start off just by giving us a little rundown on himself, and then he will go straight into the presentation, after which we will open up the floor for questions, comments, and then we will bring in Empress Devine also for her comments, and also Elder Bini, who will be with us shortly. So at the moment, I would like to hand you over to Brother Genie, who will take us forward.
All right. Well, my name is Ayo Kimathi, better known around the world as the Irritated Genie of Soufeese. The Irritated Genie is a book written about the Haitian Revolution, where they talked about the angry spirit of resistance against tyranny of our Haitian brothers and sisters that was sufficient to help them win the only overthrow of an enslaver in a foreign land to become an independent nation in the documented history of the world. And they said they were able to do it because they had that angry spirit, the Irritated Genie, to resist white oppression and tyranny. So that's where I got my title from. Brother said that I had that kind of spirit many years ago, and I've been wearing it ever since. And I'm a social architect. And basically what we do is we look at problems for a community, a group of people, an organization, or even a race or a country. And we see issues that are there that are going to, in the long run, create bigger issues. And then we come in and try to help those communities, those groups, those institutions, those nations figure out what the appropriate strategy is to go from one direction to a different trajectory that we help them develop and then move in that kind of direction and course. So with that said, I'm not going to take a whole lot of your time. I'm here in Washington, D.C. We do a lot of work. I'm the founder of the Straight Black Pride movement. The movement, we believe, is comparable to, the objective is to be comparable to a platform suitable for our people to develop and grow and have a direction and trajectory for our people, similar to what the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, peace be upon him, did during his time. So we've taken that basic idea that he put forth to us of African unification, and we've updated it to include some of the issues that we're facing in the modern context. And we said, let's go with this. Any black person who's straight means, a black man's supposed to be, a man's supposed to be with a woman, black man with the black woman. That's all we're looking for. And proud that you have some respect for the race that we belong to. That's all. We don't care about your financial situation, your education. We should all be able to work together to build a better race for our people. So with that said, I'm going to jump right on into the discussion because we don't have a lot of time today. And I'm going to try to keep within the time frame. It'll take about an hour, maybe hour and 15, hopefully a little faster. What I'm going to do now, I have a big lecture I have coming up July 25th of this month. And what I'm going to do is called African Survival in the 21st Century. But this is not the whole lecture. This is probably about 30% of the lecture, but it's some of the key points that we'll be talking about. And then we'll put this lecture out like we do the rest of our lectures. So again, I told you my name is Ayo Kimathi, social architect. Can you see the screen? My brother.
Hold on. Yeah, let me put it up. Yep. Okay.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so I want to jump right into this discussion. And basically what we're going to talk about is the primary threats to African survival. So we'll give at the very end, I'll give some suggestions of what we can do about these threats. But right now, I want to just go through some of the basic threats threatening the survival of our race in the 21st century. And we have a lecture coming up, like I said, July 25th, 2020. It'll be right here in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Here's all the information on the flyer about that event for anybody that'll be in this area. You can get your tickets on Eventbrite, put in African Survival in the 21st Century. It's a Saturday, and it'll be at Everlasting Life, 9185 Central Avenue. It's a vegan restaurant we'll be holding this lecture. And so we jump right into it. Today, what we're going to talk about, the 4 primary threats that we're going to talk about today to African survival in the 21st century. And then we're going to talk about some practical solutions. Chemical and biological warfare is the first threat. And being as though we're in this whole COVID situation, COVID-19, people call it a pandemic. What we're going to show here just very briefly to kind of say, to show people this is not just one thing that has happened. This has a historical foundation and basis of warfare. And it is part of the designed, planned, orchestrated genocide of African people in the current context. So I'm going to go and start with a video that gives you the context of the United States of America and how it was formed. And then we're going to move to the current day.
It is important for us, my brothers, that we exterminate from our land this nation which only seeks to kill us.
Okay, so let me just come out here very briefly because I think that is very important for me to make this point. Then we'll get right back into the discussion. I want people to understand why I played this clip. I'm not talking about something that's anecdotal. The foundation of this country, when the English, who 10 years after what we just saw in 1776, declared themselves independent. In order to get to that point, they were about to be rounded up and either summarily executed or expelled from the continent, North America. The only tool that they had that was the last tool in their arsenal to win that war was chemical and biological warfare, which makes chemical and biological warfare the foundation of America, without which the English would have been put out and the words America and this republic would have never been born. I make that point for us to understand that when they see themselves getting desperate and feel as though they cannot win, one of the tools that they go to in their arsenal, if we can't beat them physically, then let's chemically castrate and murder them through chemical and biological warfare, whoever they see as their enemy combatants. So I wanted to establish that right there. Now we're going to go right back into this and keep it moving. So let's go here.
There's another part of this. So not only was streaming this virus in the first place, or at least to getting out into the public,
Thank you, Mr. President. U.S. intelligence is saying this week that the coronavirus likely came from a level 4 lab in Wuhan. There's also another report that the NIH, under the Obama administration in 2015, gave that lab $3.7 million in a grant. Why would the U.S. give a grant like that to China?
The Obama administration gave them a grant of $3.7 million. I've been hearing about that. And we've instructed that if any grants are going to that area, we're looking at it literally about an hour ago and also early in the morning. We will end that grant very quickly, but it was granted quite a while ago. They were granted a substantial amount of money. We're going to look at it and take a look, but I understand it was a number of years ago. Right?
So you are.
When did you hear was the grant was made?
2015.
2015.
Yes, this is exactly right. So it goes back to 2014. The U.S. government decided, based upon certain virologists at that time, saying that, look, there's no justification for this kind of research. There's a potential for it to cause harm, cause a pandemic. So there's no justification for us to do this type of research. So the government passed a moratorium in 2014. Fauci approved approved budgets to be monies to be sectioned for this type of research. So basically, and I'm getting really, every time I think about this, it gets me because I'm so angry that he basically broke the law. He more than broke the law. He created this entire cascade that we're seeing with the world shutdown was created by this initial aspect back in 2015. He broke the law. He went against government moratoriums. He took taxpayer money and he funded research that has now led to the COVID-19. In 2017, he was documented at Georgetown University saying that there will be a pandemic that this presidency will face, that this term will face. That
there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak.
How did he know that in 2017 that something was going to happen in 2018, 19, or 2020? Mm-hmm. You can't predict the market from 3 days from today, what's going to happen. How did he know that there was going to be a pandemic?
Is Fauci directly responsible for this pandemic because he maneuvered he maneuvered around the moratorium, kept this chimeric research going in China? Is he directly responsible for not just the pandemic, but also the response that's killed the economy, put 17 to 22 million people out of work? Is Fauci directly responsible?
I'm going to say this. I think that I've seen some petitions going around. I know Dr. Shiva said that Fauci should be fired. I think that's the nicest thing that could be done to Fauci. I think he should. He's a criminal. He's broken the law. He's going against the government. I mean, to me, that seems like it's a traitorous thing to do when the government has passed a regulation and he's at one of the highest levels in the NIH. He's got a directorship at the NIH, and then he breaks the law, he breaks the moratorium, and then funds research against something that could potentially cause harm throughout the entire world. And he's in collusion with the foreign government.
Is the lead researcher into trying to develop a coronavirus vaccine at the National Institute of Health. Joining me now is Kizzmekia Corbett. Back with us also is Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who I know is going to be asking you questions as well, Doctor. I'm sure you get this question from anybody you meet who finds out what you do. Any idea when a vaccine, assuming that this vaccine works, when it might be available for use?
Yeah, so, we are targeting fall. We're targeting fall for the emergency use. So that would be, for healthcare workers and people who might be in constant contact and risk of being exposed over and over. And then for the general population, our target goal is for next spring. And that is if all things go well, and if these phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical trials work simultaneously for the good, our plan is to have people vaccinated all over the world by next spring.
So I think most of you know what I'm going to say in the next slide is something that we really have to get successful, and that is the development of a universal influenza vaccine, namely a vaccine that is not only effective against seasonal flu changes, but also pandemics, so that you do not have any distinguishing features between how you prepare for one or the other. And this is something that Gary Nabel and I wrote about 6 or 7 years ago when we were talking about the work that we started, and it's coming along pretty well. We don't have it yet. We're probably not going to have it for a few years, but we're getting closer and closer to a universal flu vaccine.
Remember, Fauci is now the man in charge of the U.S. response to the coronavirus, which would be very strange if he were responsible in part for the creation of this virus in the first place, or at least to getting out into the public.
All right. Can you all see my screen now?
Hold on. Not yet. No, hold on. Let me see. Let's get it up. Yep, it's up now.
All right, fantastic. So I'm gonna try to move a little fast. I know we lost some time, so let me move on through. So basically, I'm just doing these things as anecdotes. Here we see in Kenya where the UN gave tetanus vaccinations, but they were really laced with anti-fertility agents, basically sterilizing 500,000 Black women. And if the Kenyan doctors had not been present of mind enough to actually test the vaccine to see, you know, if there was anything in it. And if they hadn't found that agent, we could have been talking about 14 million instead of 500,000 or 500 million, million of African people across the continent. So the point being, there's a systematic effort to kill us through chemical and biological warfare. Show this video and then we're going to move forward.
These are genetically modified mosquitoes, but they are not like mimicking sunset is crucial because this is when the male mosquitoes start their mating dance and attract females to spread their sterilizing mutations.
All right, so I'm not going to come back out so you can see me just because I've been having a little bit of issues when we've done that, but let me just speak to it. I think they can still see me while we're on the thing. Basically, I think it speaks for itself. What they're using now is nature itself. They're mutating nature in the mosquitoes to carry an agent that sterilizes females. And then with the hope that this very thing would end up affecting our women and sterilizing them. So now we couldn't even point to a vaccination, a tetanus vaccination. Now they just have it happening wild in nature and our women are no longer getting pregnant. So we're talking about major international efforts at extermination of Black people that are not being put out there on the forefront for our people to understand. So I'm gonna move kind of quickly here because I know we lost some time. For people that want more information in depth, where we break these things down for our people to know what we're facing in this chemical and biological warfare, you can get the Feminization of the Black Male Reloaded. In there, we have a section on this chemical and biological warfare and how it's being waged in the current environment. Also, genocide, they've come to kill us. You can get it at waronthehorizon.com. If you're in England, we don't send out the hard copies, but we'll send you an email with a download for your computer, and you can watch any of our DVDs on your computer. So I'm going to skip through this very fast because I don't want to get lost on time. But the second major threat to African survival is the one that they've been doing the longest. If you've read The Destruction of Black Civilization by Dr. Chancellor Williams, he made it clear to us over the course of a study of 6,000 years that the primary element and the key element in destruction of Black civilization has been integration. This miscegenation, this intermarrying, particularly into ruler class, which we see happening right now in many of the African nations, the creation of mixed groups that we refer to, if you have one Black parent and one white parent, it's called a mulatto, that not as individuals, but as a class, that this process of interbreeding with Black people, getting into the ruler class, and then using the mulatto class, who we see as brothers and sisters, as an agent to undermine the interests of African people, is going on seriously on this planet now. Many of the African countries, but even we see here in Dr. Chancellor's book, Williams' book, Destruction of Black Civilization, on page 295, he says the mulatto has been the white man's most effective agent in helping destroy Black civilizations. Now, when we go forward, we look at that's exactly what was done with Barack Obama. Without getting deep into it, we have DVDs that break it all the way down. But to make it simple, they use someone that halfway looked like us to promote the assault and physical warfare on the African continent that would otherwise be resisted by Black people, and the promotion of behavior that's detrimental and destructive to African culture, the homosexuality. They use him to do it because with the Black face on it, we didn't see it, or with a mulatto face on it, we didn't see it as an assault, and it's gained tremendous headway and is it's threatening to crack the foundation of Black life and Black community all over the world. People are facing problems with our children not knowing that a man's supposed to be with a woman. So if you want more information on that, you can go to Dear Obama, Death by Lethal Integration. I'm moving kind of fast because I want to make sure I keep up with the time. Third major threat that we're talking about for African survival is direct warfare. I mean, like direct, the George Floyd, the various things where we see redlining, economic terrorism, land grabs on the African continent, police brutality, domestic terrorism, direct forms of assaults of African people. And it's happening at a more overt rate now, where with the internet and with access to media, we're beginning to see it more frequently.
The intercepted document urges Ghana's parliament to, quote, respectfully consider and approve the agreement between the government of the United States of America and the government of Ghana. Here are brief highlights of what the United States gets from Ghana. Unrestricted access to a host of Ghanaian facilities. Wide-ranging tax exemptions to the United States military. U.S. military will use Ghana as a base for staging and deploying forces. Ghana will bear the cost and take primary responsibility for securing the U.S. facilities in Ghana. Ghana will provide unimpeded access to and the use of agreed facilities and areas to the United States forces and contractors. The agreement allows U.S. forces and their contractors to undertake construction activities and make alterations and improvements to agreed facilities and areas. The United States contractors shall not be liable to pay tax or similar charge access within Ghana in connection with this agreement. On imports and exports, the U.S. forces may also import into and export out of and use in Ghana any personal property, equipment, supplies, material, technology, training, or services in connection with the agreement. Such importation, exportation, and use shall be exempt from any inspection, license, other restrictions, customs duty, taxes, or any other charges within Ghana. Aircraft, vehicles, and vessels operated by or at the time exclusively for the United States forces may enter and exit and move freely within the territory and territorial waters of Ghana. In terms of radio spectrum, the United States forces can also use Ghana's radio spectrum free of charge and have unimpeded access. Ghana has to accept as valid without a driving test or fee driving licenses or permits issued by the appropriate U.S. authorities to military personnel as well as civilians and contractors. In a nutshell, the document says the USA wants Ghana as a base for staging and deploying forces. What does Ghana get in return? Facilitation of training, maintaining unit of readiness, continued exercise, and other military opportunities, the document says. It continues, enhanced and fruitful security cooperation between Ghana and the U.S. Also, exchange of information and conduct of joint operations to combat terrorism. The Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwul, says Ghana gets a $20 million package, even though that is not stated in the agreement cited by Joe News.
So now there's good news and bad news. I think the bad news is demonstrated in just what we just saw. I don't think I need to even speak to that. The good news is that the brothers and sisters in Ghana on the ground, I was very happy to see that the Ghanaian brothers and sisters are very astute. When this information got out to the people, they were on it immediately. And in Ghana, unlike many places we have around the world, the Ghanaians don't feel like the government controls them. They feel like it's their country, the government represents them. And if the government begins to do something they don't like, they directly do something about it. So this particular overt situation was quelled. I don't think there are many things that are going on in this same regard right now, but it can't be done overtly, right, with the people out front because I think, did it come out again from the sharing? Hello?
Did it? Oh, no, it's it's okay.
Okay. You did that. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put it back in. Shall I add it back?
No, that's fine. I'm about when I start up, you can. I just didn't know if it happened by accident, if I had to go back in, but that's no.
Oh, no. Yeah, because I just highlighted you.
Fantastic. Okay. So my basic point is that what we see there, this is just a microcosm of what's happening around the world, where whether it's mulattoes or we call it Mabutus, Black people who will take money or some other benefit in the interest of targeting other Black people, the rest of us, to do harm to us. We call them Mabutus, like Mobutu Sese Seko. These are race traders, or these are people that, they're race traders. This is a major issue that we're having, and it facilitates the assault on Black people around the world. So we just showed this one slide, and I'm gonna move on to the last one. But this is the third assault. We're talking about the direct assault. We see here in America, you see the white guy on the little sister there. We see this domestic terrorism that we're facing here. We see here the troops overseas killing black people in combat around the world. Here we see the Arabs in Libya, where they've started the re-enslavement of African people. And we see the Asiatics here in the Indonesians in West Papua, where our brothers and sisters are valiantly fighting, but they're not getting enough assistance that they need from the African world community. We have people that are willing to fight, but we're facing it from the Asiatics, from the Arabs, from the Euros, in the East and the West. And it's just a reality for us to come to grips with. We're facing it anyway. There's no reason to be afraid. If we work together, we can take care of all of these issues, but we have to be aware of those issues exist, and we have to be organized to help each other defend ourselves in these situations. So the last and the final one that I'm going to talk about, and I would say it's the most lethal. All of the other ones, when we wake up, we can organize easily and start fighting it because we're fighting outwards. We're looking at those that are doing harm to us and we're going out to fight. This one is a little more sophisticated because they make the Euro within. They come inside of the African with this war. They transition the context of what it means to be an African. And now we become our own enemy. And now we turn we turn our weapons against ourselves because now we have to fight our own selves. It's a very dangerous and lethal assault. It takes the African, de-Africanizes them, and death and genocide has already occurred while we're still physically alive. So this is the one that most people don't see. It's difficult to see. And by the time you see it, you're overwhelmed trying to figure out what do we do with it. It's called the homophile assault, the promotion of homosexuality, pedophilia. And I want to give it a basic context. In the basic, more modern context, we go back to the 1990s. When we look at homophilia, homosexuality and pedophilia as being culturally accepted in the African world community, overtly, it still hasn't been overtly totally accepted. However, one of the countries where it first became, accepted and is really bleeded in to become really part of the culture would be South Africa. And I want to show people how it was done because this is important for us to understand. One of the things they do with this is because as African people, we're 100% against this behavior. It's totally against our culture and the very essence of who we are. What they realize, if they get someone who we respect, they back them and they make them bigger than life. Whatever they do, the rest of us will do, because we will lose our defense mechanism against these things. Because if this is our hero and our leader, as is African tradition, so goes the chief, as goes the chief, so goes the village. And so they make super chiefs. They sponsor and fund super chiefs that look like us, that we believe are ours. And then they take them in a certain direction. And once we see them rubber stamping behavior, we open up and allow them to do it. So I'm going to show you, this is Nelson Mandela, and this is a transvestite that he was sitting down with named Peter Dirk Ouz, known as Evita, a huge star. I mean, a media superstar. This was back in the 1990s that they promoted to us through Nelson Mandela's endorsement.
I've come to see a very old and dear friend. He also happens to be probably the most famous person in the world. Mr. President, everyone in the world wants to spend time with you, and here you are with me. I must thank you. It's a wonderful honor to be back here in Tainhuis. I look around this room and I see some of the things that I helped create. Mrs. Buerta and I looked after the curtains in the old days. Do you enjoy being in Tainhuis?
Yes, I do. Because
this is a very interesting box. It was sent to Robben Island, and obviously you'd left. They scratched it out, Paulsmoor. Then they sent it to the Vic Verster. Then I think somebody sent it to Tainhuis, Cape Town, but they said return to sender. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't. Wow, I would like to open it for you.
Thank you very much.
And then you can.
Oh, very good. Huh? That's very lovely.
A special shirt to remind you of this very special occasion.
Wow. This is very lovely indeed. I value this. Thank you very much.
My dear President. There's a message for you there. It says, for Madiba, eternally yours, Amandla Vrystaat.
Oh, very good. Very, very, very
I
good.
want to thank you for everything you are doing for us and for being a friend to us and for inspiring us with so much love and so much affection for the future.
You're welcome. You are very generous. You have done a wonderful work too, and we're proud of you. And I mean it when I say you are one of my heroes.
Okay, so we're looking at 26 years ago when we're looking at this. In that 26 years, what was this type of endorsement from the top, from the presidency of South Africa? What access did it allow for him to have? He got access to the youth. So he was let into the school system through the endorsement of the presidency and those at the top rank of South Africa to promote and train youth in this behavior.
I have to listen very carefully because each school is from a different background, not just a different ethnic background. Some schools are Xhosa, Zulu, some schools are Indian, some schools are Malay, Muslim schools, Christian schools, Afrikaans schools, white schools, or mixed schools, first world schools, where the kids actually have a very, very international education.
So ladies, ask questions about this. Look, this is not perfect. Lots of work has to be done here. We've got to spend a lot of money on this, not give money to Mugabe, but spend money on making this thing perfect. I found this in Amsterdam in a shop. They said, these are the condoms they use in Uganda. Yeah, well, I mean, this is a... I showed this to a school in Khayelitsha last week, and one of the chaps said, yeah, bro, Peter, wear that outside my trousers! Nice big earrings. Earrings.
I actually started as a stage manager in the theater. I mean, when I went to drama school, they said I don't have talent, so I must be a stage manager, which was the best thing that happened to me because I'm a qualified technician. I can set up a stage, I can do lights, I can do sound, I can make costumes, I can set props.
En nou gebruik ons 'n lekker stukkie Afrika materiaal en al wat jy doen is jy maak hom.
It's also a style. I mean, I've got a style now, and I know I've got sort of a style of transparency, theatrical transparency, meaning that I don't need blackouts, and I don't hide anything. I don't go behind the screen. I take off, I put on, you see me do that.
Wat heb ik vergeten? Wat moet ik nog doen? Ja.
Evita also. You want to see Evita? I can sit here with all the makeup on and everything. She won't be here. But then I know how to put her on, and I summons the spirit. It's magic. It's black magic.
So this, imagine now, this is 26 years of this. So just imagine what kind of impact that had on the minds of young people. Now you understand why when you go to South Africa and you turn on the television, all you see is sexualized. These are males, homosexuals. It's entirely pro-homosexual in the cities. The only place that you get any resistance to this type of behavior is on the countryside with the chiefs and in the kingdoms. But it's been the homosexualization of our children, the homosexualization of the culture through the acceptance and endorsement of people that we respect, then penetrating to the minds of our young people. Then they involve themselves in these behaviors with the child sex trafficking, with the pedophilia that's already going in, has created a terrible cultural reality. And if there's anyone from South Africa that's listening, you can say the same thing that I'm saying, because I went there, so I know. I lectured around South Africa, even went to Nelson Mandela University. And what I can say is, everywhere I went, they said we don't have one person in the entire country of South Africa who will be publicized publicly, nationally on television, speaking out against this behavior. And if you do speak out against it, you got to be threatened to lose your job. And they've implemented what's called CSE, comprehensive sex education, where they're now teaching children, that girls, that they should be having sex with each other, and boys that they should be having sex with each other. So much so that we've had people from South Africa, a number of them, contact us and ask us to try to help them with the situation, because the school is training their children to go in the direction of this behavior. It's a major problem that people don't want to talk about.
President of the United States, gays and lesbians will have somebody who will fight for equal rights for them, because they are our brothers and they are our sisters.
So what I'm showing here is that they took the model of Nelson Mandela, a black face that we believe in, that our people get behind. They take that black face, endorse the behavior that's genocidal towards our people, put them in front of us, and then those who would have otherwise resisted this assault then get on board with it and accept it. We actually informed many of the brothers and sisters in England what this assault was in 2008 before it happened, and some of them actually came to some of the lectures and shared with people, hey, we talked to Brother Irritated Genie. He told us that this is an evil plot to get us to accept homosexuality. And I actually saw some of the videos that brothers and sisters were sharing the information, but unfortunately we didn't have access to enough media to get it out to our people on a massive enough scale to resist. And we all drank the Kool-Aid, and it's had dire consequences since. And so now what's happening is they're using the media to take this sick, perverted death system that culturally kills African people, destroys our families, and destroys the future of our children. They're giving it to superstars, or making people superstars, and spreading it as if it's normal all around the world. This is Dwayne Wade and Gabriel Union. So they're using folks that they pay and give big salaries that our young people have fallen in love with. And then they say, it's cool, little boy, to be a little girl. And then they open the backsides of our sons up and open our daughters up to lust for one another. And basically it's a war with an attrition rate that's incredible, but it's hard to count because it's a silent, quiet war, even though we see it going on all around us. Even as where we look at another aspect of this war, why it's such a dangerous war, because it's fought on so many multiple levels. They then take authentic black resistance. So whenever we start galvanizing because someone killed a black person unjustly, so we get to the streets and say we need to fight, what they do is they use our warrior spirit. Our young people are warriors. They get out there and say, we're not going to tolerate this. And they go toe to toe and face to face with the people that, you know, most of us that have gotten older are not going to go out there in front of police officers and say, we're not going to tolerate this. But our young people will do it. What they have done is they've created a mechanism whereby they finance LGBT, lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender, to push this agenda. But they use the momentum of organic movement, and then they put money in and let them come in front of the movements and take them over. So the movement that we used to call Black Lives Matter, that we're going to change it, and we'll show you what we're doing now. It's really a gay lesbian movement. This is Alicia Garza right here. She's the one that first did the hashtag Black Lives Matter. She did it in 2012 when actually in 2013 when George Zimmerman was acquitted for the murder of Trayvon Martin. That's the first time we saw Black Lives Matter. It came from this black female here. But she did, this is her post where she says she's been married for 10 years. This is 2020. So that means in 2010, she was already married to this female. Now, this white European that you see here is a female. So we're not only talking about miscegenation and race mixing, but we're talking about she's a transgender. So she's a female trying to be a male. She was married to her in 2010 and was with her in 2006. So before this whole Black Lives Matter started, she was already in this type of death style. This is her real agenda. And then by 2013, she puts out the hashtag Black Lives Matter. George Soros and the other folks see what they're doing, see the momentum that could get. They see the organic movement of black people saying we're not going to tolerate domestic terrorism. And they say, let's use that momentum, put these individuals in front and put the word black on it. And then we'll give them the money and give them all the coverage. So we'll use the warrior spirit of the black people who are fighting for justice against oppression. And then we'll put the lesbians and the gays in front of it. And then we'll change the movement to represent those interests. So I'm just going to play this very, very, very short clip because I want you to hear it out of her mouth. What was the objective from the beginning of what we formerly called Black Lives Matter, but which we now call the gay lesbian movement?
What's important to us in Black Lives Matter is that we are elevating and cultivating the leadership of folks who have not been included in the conversation. That includes Black trans women, that includes Black immigrant women, Black disabled folks, Black incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people. For us, right, we're really trying to queer our movement.
So, again, a movement that's funded by George Soros, completely a movement, is nothing to do with Black people.
All right. So if we heard her, he said, we created this movement to queer out our Black liberation movement. In other words, the Black liberation movement fights for the rights of Black people and is willing to even get militant and armed in the defense of Black life. Their objective is to queer it, to take it to, we are all going to fight for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgenderism. But we'll use the momentum of the young people and then take it over from the top, because the young people out there are fighting for a cause, but they don't have leadership per se. They'll become the leadership and shift it. So I'm going to show some slides here now. They're disturbing, and I'm not trying to be vulgar, but I want you to see, just so you can understand on the ground what Black Lives Matter really is about. Now, anybody that wants a real in-depth analysis of Black Lives Matter, its origin and what it's really about, you can get Pizzagate, the New Slave Trade. Again, waronthehorizon.com, or you can get 21st Century Race Traders Exposed. In both of them, we break down the Black Lives Matter and what it's really about and designed to do. Now, I'm showing this here because we know that George Floyd was murdered. And we're seeing that this whole Black Lives Matter is happening. But people are confused because they know that we want to stop Black people from getting killed. We like that momentum. But every time we turn around, what we see is the Zionists putting up things to support the LGBT agenda. So here is Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis. George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis. Many of us have seen, he kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes and 42 seconds. We witnessed that. And the people are outraged about it. Who does he pick? Jacob Frey, to represent the interests of Black men who are being murdered in the street. This is a Black transsexual that they scrapped up out of somewhere that's part of the vice president of the city council. This is who is representing Black men now. And this is the image that's being spread around the world of Black resistance.
All throughout this country, all throughout America, and right here in Minneapolis, we feel as if there was a knee on all of our collective necks. A knee that says Black life does not matter to the institutions that dictate what happens in this culture and society. I am a part of this system to help to take that knee off of our necks.
So what happens is
the work that I will be doing.
They take away authentic warrior masculine energy of Black men. Even the George Floyd was a heterosexual. They take away the reality of Black manhood and they replace it with this. And then they hide the real men who are saying we're not going to tolerate this. And this is what they promote under the guise of the murder of Black men. So we get murdered twice. We get murdered in the street by the domestic terrorists, and then we get murdered politically and through our images, through the media and through the political system by using this as a demonstration for what represents Black manhood. And then they do it all in the name of promoting what? Here are the signs in Washington, D.C. Black trans people matter. So it's not talking about George Floyd. It's not asking for justice for him. It's asking and it's demanding the acceptance, using Black death, the acceptance of this genocidal orchestrated assault on African people that's international. That we saw the same thing in South Africa. We see it right here. Black trans people matter. I'm gonna show this next slide, and it's vulgar, but these are actual pictures. These are not something that we went outside the culture. I want you to see what they're drawing black people into. Young black people, youth, 17, 18, 15, 14, 22, 25 are going out there to say, we're going to resist abuse. Then they send in these LGBT and these whites, and this is what they bring them. They bring them some kind of sick, perverted sexual revolution. I'm not even going to read the shirt. You can see it for yourself. You see her holding this phallus out there. So the young brothers are going out there to fight for black life. And then, as they are wont to do, they use the white female to swap out the revolution for a physical revolution for justice for black people to some kind of sexual free-for-all where these black males can get access to these white females. And they say, here we are, come get us. And so now, not only are they killing black men in the street through the domestic terrorism, but now black women are going to have less black men to deal with because they try to sexualize black men into this. And then pull the sisters into the lesbianism and the brothers into the homophilia. So it's all a design that has nothing to do with black people. It's funded by George Soros and other Zionists. And so what we've done is we've decided, we've shifted. We said, we don't want to lose this momentum, but we have to split this movement up. So BLM no longer stands for Black Lives Matter, even though our lives do matter. It stands for Black Liberation Movement. With you all there at the PACM, what we are here, Straight Black Pride Movement, War on the Horizon, New Black Panther Party, many of brothers and sisters on the ground around the world who are fighting Black Liberation Movement. And so we call the GLM as the Gay Lesbian Movement. And we need to separate the two. And we need to say that never the twin shall meet, because the BLM is against LGBT because that's not our culture. We're here to protect black life, and you can't produce black life without a black man and a black woman. We say, and it's one of our slogans here, we say we don't trade bodies for buildings. We're not out there. When we looked at the protests that were going on, most of the burning of buildings, most of the breaking out of the windows, most of the Molotov cocktails that were thrown was done by white folks. These are white folks doing this and LGBTs. We were going out there like warriors do, and our young people were going out face to face with the police saying, stop killing us. It wasn't about burning stuff down. And I'm not saying that if somebody did that, I'm not criticizing them for that. I'm just saying our aims, goals, and objectives are taken off course by individuals who are trying to pull us into a lot of different things. And they have lots of money and lots of resources and access to the media. So when the media shows it, they show this freakishness and this lawlessness, when in reality, our people are fighting for what's just. But it's difficult because it hasn't been measured and articulated. And so that's what we're doing now. Black Liberation Movement is different. That's the BLM, and that's what we're pushing now. And everybody, I think most black people can get with that. It's about black people and our interests and protecting black life and a black future and black economic reality. It's not about some sexuality, mixing it up sexually with a bunch of different people and all of this perversion. And so I'm showing this, and I'm gonna wrap up because I know it's about time for us to go to question and answers. I just want to say, while all of this is happening, we have to look, because what is happening as they're promoting this gay lesbian movement internationally and funding them and giving them the media attention under the guise of being black, which is not. This is the same time that many of those Mobutus we are talking about in the African nations are being leaned on by their sponsors to legalize homosexuality, because this is the real goal and objective of this whole gay lesbian movement. So we're being used as the battering ram, not to beat down white oppression, but to raise these LGBT flags. Here you see in Gabon, right now they just voted for the first level of legalizing homosexuality in the country of Gabon. I just came back in 2019 from Kenya, doing a lecture tour, basically lecturing about the fact that they were trying to legalize it in Kenya. Thank God that we were able to have success, and the Kenyan brothers and sisters stood strong and did not do it. But it's an international assault, and it's being waged heavily on the African continent. I've gotten calls from Liberia. I've gotten calls from, Gabon, Liberia, Cameroon, Botswana. It's totally been taken over South Africa. They're trying to work it into Zimbabwe now, but we have resistance there. Thank God for His Excellency Magufuli in Tanzania. He's standing strong against it. But we're under a major war that nobody really wants to talk about. And it's happening, and they're getting a lot of leverage. They tried it in Ghana, where they had legalized the CSE through the school system. But when we made people aware of that in Ghana, and other people made them aware of that, the Ghanaians stood strong and said, we insist that this agenda to sexualize our children through the school system be removed. But the fact that it even got passed through the Ghanaian school system, comprehensive sex education, which is simply teaching your sons and daughters in first grade about oral sex and anal sex and homosexuality. It's a sick, perverted agenda. You can look it up online. Comprehensive sex education, CSE, is very sick and disgusting. But how it even got through in Ghana to be resisted, after it got through, becomes the issue. So I'm not even going to play this clip, but basically this is the clip where I went to Bermuda, and in Bermuda, they were trying to legalize it in Bermuda. And essentially I went and did a lecture in Bermuda. And when I did this lecture, matter of fact, let me just show this real quick. Can you give me the time? Because I can't see the time with my clock up. How much time do I have?
Yeah. Well, time's fine. Yeah, I can show it.
Okay, let me show this, and then I'm gonna go to some solutions. This is when I went to Bermuda in 2015. Just to set it up for you, we had just launched the Straight Black Pride movement in August 2015. So we're talking about 1 month later, I was invited to Bermuda, and I did not know at the time that they were trying to legalize homophilia in Bermuda. But I did the lecture in such a way that I could say, these are the things that are happening around the world. And I was shocked with the response from the brothers and sisters in Bermuda, because that's when I found out that they were trying to do it right as we did this.
My decision stands. Obviously, if some people want to criticize, that's their right to do so.
When he says criticize, Home Affairs Minister Michael Fay is referring to some of the comments posted to Facebook and made on radio talk shows that the minister acted arbitrarily by placing American Ayo Kimathi on Bermuda's immigration stop list. This in response to Mr. Kimathi's anti-gay and anti-white rant at the Liberty Theater over the weekend, which has been labeled by government as hate speech.
Created for our people around the world. In fact, I'm feeling so good in here. I'm feeling like I think Bermuda might be a place for a Straight Black Pride chapter. What y'all think? Oh, okay. I did come to the right place. I think I came to the right place. See, we got a flag. We got our red, black, and green that Brother Garvey gave us. But then we said it's 2015. We got to add a little. So we got to add the father, the mama, and the children. That's a black family. And we straight, we black, and we proud. And the sun is shining on our people right here. Oh, yeah. See, this thing about to happen. Y'all see,
I think anyone that really spends any significant time analyzing not just what was said at that lecture, and in fact, if you spend the time to look at some of the speeches he's given in the past in other jurisdictions, which are all available online, you'll see that this is someone who has used incredibly offensive language that's derogatory and has no place in a modern society in respect of what he said.
Others online questioning what happened to a person's constitutional right to freedom of speech.
But freedom of speech comes with responsibility. And freedom of speech does not mean advocating hate, and it does not mean advocating anything other than what should be good and right. If you have a view, you do not express it in a way that expresses hatred and perhaps incites violence. And we shouldn't stand for it here. And the decision, I don't see that it's harsh, but I believe it's a good decision. And I'm satisfied that I had more than sufficient information to make the decision that was made.
Mr. Kimathi's resulting re-entry ban comes as a surprise to some Bermudians who were unaware that the island even maintains such a list. In Mr. Kimathi's case, it will mean he will not be allowed to land on our shores for a period of 5 years.
At the conclusion of that period, the individual who's on the stop list can make an application to the minister to remove from that stop list. My statement was clear. In the minister's opinion, if someone has behaved in an undesirable fashion or words that affect under Section 31 of the Bermuda Immigration Protection Act, I, as minister, have the discretion to make certain decisions, which I took.
Meanwhile, complaints have been made to the Human Rights Commission about the speaker's remarks after the Center for Justice reminded the public that it is an offense to incite hatred and violence through public speech. Asked if Premier Dunkley was involved with the decision to ban Mr. Kimathi.
The Act gives the minister the authority to make decisions, but of course decisions like this would be in consultation with colleagues as seen appropriate. But the authority given for that decision lies with the minister.
So I showed it to show that happened. They banned me for 5 years for a lecture where I mean, they said the reason they banned me was because I said that black people should spend our money with other black people. And because I said that the black man should marry black women and have black children and black families. So this was the decision. They said that that was worth being banned. The black people of Bermuda were so angry that not only did they vote down, they were planning to vote against it anyway, but this just added an intensity and an understanding of the more global relevance of what they were planning to do. So they voted, not only did they vote against civil unions and gay marriage in the country, but they went further and voted the entire white government out of Bermuda. So it was beautiful. It was a victory. Now, the second phase of that, which we weren't prepared for, because of course we did a lawsuit, and you can get the information more in detail than Nothing But an African. It's a 4-part DVD you can get on waronthehorizon.com. You go there and you go into politics, social, economics. You go in there and you find Nothing But an African, and then you can order it electronically if you want to order it over there in London. But at any rate, what we see is that we filed a lawsuit, and the lawsuit essentially says that forcing homosexuality on black people is genocide. The lawsuit was so powerful. Of course, they ruled against us to begin with. We went to go back and do it, and they essentially took the attorney, who's a very successful attorney, our brother Eugene Johnston there, and basically ran him and his wife out of law at that time because they did not want the lawsuit to come to you all, which would be in London, because then we would have an international lawsuit in London where every African nation and the country of London, every European nation with Africans in it, black people in America, we would all be sitting on pins and needles with an international lawsuit that alleges that the forced acceptance of homophilia is genocide on African people. They don't even want it to get to the court system. So we're right in the process as we speak of considering reopening the case. And we're going to be coming out to ask for funding and support from brothers and sisters when we do that, because we need to get this case out there, because this would literally give us the authority to walk into any classroom anywhere in the world when we win this case, which we will. That's why they don't even want the case to get to court. And we'll walk in and say, you cannot teach that as long as they're a black child in this classroom, because it is genocide by definition. So we have some real big things on the map. We are not just sitting down and taking this thing. We want people to know. So now I'm going to run through these decisions very quick. I'm not going to give much depth to them. I think they speak for themselves. And then we'll go to question and answer. We're saying it's time for us to make some very serious decisions and some of the things we can do regarding these threats to African survival. And again, this is a very, very shortened version, probably about 30% of what I'm doing in the actual lecture, African Survival in the 21st Century, on July 25th. But every African nation must permanently ban Bill and Melinda Gates from the African continent. We literally need a no-walk zone. Like, you cannot, you have established and stated that you're trying to depopulate the planet, and particularly that you're coming to Africa to do it, which makes it an offense for us as African people to even allow you to walk here, because we know what your interests are. We need African people on the ground to demand of their governments that this happen. And even if the governments don't do it, tell them that they will enforce it themselves. You can't come here because you said that you want to kill black people. We won't allow you here. Africa must create a bill that classifies behavior that threatens African survival as genocide. I've been saying this for a few years now. Genocide bill. We need to come up with a comprehensive bill that classifies pretty much those 4 things that we just saw. This is genocide. These behaviors are genocide. And then these are the penalties for genocide. And it needs to go from whatever country sponsors it and starts it to regional to all of sub-Saharan Africa, and ultimately all of the African continent. Also, maximize media to connect African people worldwide. We need to make an international African-centered dialogue a normal occurrence. What we're doing here is international dialogue. You got somebody black from America, brothers and sisters from the islands who've been in this movement for years and decades. You're in England. This is an international discussion. There's no reason with the internet that we don't make this every day, every week, there should be something we can tune into for those that care about the future of our race, to hear from other brothers and sisters in different regions, to put our ideas together and work together in the interest of our people. In doing that, we need to create a very professional, and I say this because this is very well done that what we do here. I think people can see it. It's clean. It's nice. This is the standard I think we need to be operating with. I'm not knocking anybody, because there are a lot of people that are putting out information. But when every other word is an insult to our own people, when it's laced with all kind of language that a mature person might not want to sit down and listen to, we devalue the information, and we devalue the very platform that we have to be able to share information and to be with our people. Do I use profanity? Yes. Do I do it to you? No, because I respect you. I feel honored to be able to add some value to the lifeline of my race. So I'm not gonna come up here and call you all kind of names here, you know, just all over the place and talk any kind of way to you, because I respect you as I respect myself. I think that's important. I said a very professional, 24-hour a day, conscious international African streaming network with scheduled programming. So in other words, imagine if a program like this was scheduled and we had, just like you turn on TV, but we have the internet now. We could have it where you could turn on this thing and you know when you're going to see something. And even if you don't know what's coming on, there's something that's planned, is decent quality programming for African people around the world. And we could have it, one of them in English, one of them in French, because there are a lot of French-speaking brothers and sisters, one of them in Portuguese for our Brazilian brothers and sisters, so that we can have this kind of dialogue. I just did a program with Brother Mobali Mokasi, who's in France yesterday. Lots of people tuned in, and we're having dialogue talking about what's happening to us as Africans. And what we're finding is that the same thing that's happening to us here, you're dealing with there in England, in France, our people are dealing with it, and on the continent. So why shouldn't we be having continuous dialogue and conversation now that we have resources and it's not that expensive to do? Take control of the internal economy. What do I mean? The things we have direct control of. We got to grow our own food in accordance with dietary standards that are healthy for our people. I don't think that's that difficult in the current environment where you can just look online and see how do you grow something, you know, and there's all different kinds of ways to do it. We need to run non-Africans out of business in Black communities and nations. We're the only race on the planet where everybody else gets rich off of our disposable income. It's not disposable. Black money needs to go into Black hands for Black goods and Black services. And what that means to other people, I really don't care. I just know it means that they got to go. And so we have to figure out, you know, the best ways to do it. Whatever works the best in any given particular place or time, we need to implement. We need to take over the corner stores and local businesses in Black communities. These are goods and services that we get in local communities that anybody who has business savvy and acumen can do if they decide to. We just have to make the decision that it's not about what the price is. It's about quality goods and services, proper treatment, love for our people, and a loyalty to our people, where we're going to put our own people in positions and we're not going to buy from anybody else in the neighborhood that we live in. Just the bottom line. We can do this. We just have to decide to do it and be serious about it. Our entire culture of our youth, and I know this is a huge lift, but I just got to be honest. We did not grow up in this kind of culture. Were there negative things? Were there subculture things that weren't healthy? Sure. Was it drugs? And there's always been negative things, but it's different now. Our youth are not living in a subculture of decadence. The base level culture that they operate with is a homophile culture. The boys wearing their pants. If I can see the color of your drawers, you're involved in homosexual behavior. You may not be involved in physical intercourse, but I'm not supposed to know what color a man's drawers are. Excuse me for being a little bit direct there, but I don't want to know the color of your underwear. And if I see them, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. I'm not supposed to see that. Mm-hmm. I'm not supposed to see that on a woman either, because she has some respect. But as a man, I don't want to see a man's underwear. That's I'm getting close to your backside, and I'm not close to no man's backside. It's unhealthy. Our women are dressing with same standards. This whole hip hop culture, and I'm of that generation that created this. So I'm taking a shot against us. We created a death culture for our people. It didn't start that way, but it doesn't matter. It is that way. There's nothing about this culture, us calling each other N-words every other word. Since when has any race ever adopted the most hostile term ever created to refer to them by their most wicked and immortal enemies, to refer to themselves on a regular basis and expect to pull themselves out of an oppressive situation? I expect for them to use that term and get punched in the mouth when they do it. We're not supposed to insult each other as a course of dialogue on a regular basis. We've got to improve. Our women are not these terms that we use. Sure, we have a lot of problems to deal with, but there's smarter and more intelligent ways to discuss and dialogue with each other about the things we don't agree with each other than insulting each other as a matter of the base course of culture. It has to stop. We got to create new positive forms of music. We cannot stop hating each other and cursing each other and calling each other out of our names when every song that we listen to hates us, sells dope to us, glorifies violence against us, calls us out of our name, promotes the rape and abuse of our women. It doesn't make any sense. If you listen to that over and over and over again, how can you do anything different? It's cognitive conditioning. It makes no sense. And we've got to snap out of this fear to talk to young people and tell them. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we let this happen and we're so ashamed and embarrassed. And then we are scared of young people. We got to tell them that what you're listening to, we gave you the wrong stuff. Let's remake something new, something that's fresh and exciting, and something that doesn't demean our people. We got to demonize this homophile culture. We cannot have people going around with even when we disagree with homophilia, we do it the European way. And I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to get to wrapping it up. But I want to say this because I want you to understand. We don't even disagree with the behavior correctly. If we take it from a historical perspective, white folks were like this. Homophilia is their culture. Homosexuality and pedophilia, it's the core of their culture. From the Greeks to the Romans to pre-history, where you look on the caves and the things that they were writing. This is their culture. So when they agreed, well, most of them just was involved in it, but the ones that weren't, when they disagreed with it, their language was this: hey, what y'all do over there, that's your business. Just don't bring it over to me. Why did they say that? Because it was their culture. What could they do about it anyway? So they like, yeah, I just choose not to participate in my own culture. That's how they looked at it. That was never the African way. In the African village, if somebody said in that village, there's some people over there that are participating in some horrible behavior and tried to describe what these folks do, people would either do two things. They would either surround that house, drag them out the house, put them out of the community, or they would get around it with some sticks and start burning it and say, oh my God, we can't allow this kind of, because we couldn't even imagine this kind of behavior. What I'm saying is, and then if I'm talking to a lot of brothers and sisters in England, then you should understand even better, because there was a time when Jamaicans still, and I'm saying it's not now, so I'm not going to lie to you, but when Jamaicans were the pillars of maintaining an African resistance to this sick, perverted, Euro homophile like death style, the Jamaican was not negotiating with it. Get it out to me face. It's like absolute no negotiation. We're not talking about it. And if you try to bring it to me, I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. It's unacceptable. Whether to women, to men, none of this stuff was acceptable. But now what's happened is we no longer feel strong enough to adopt an African resistance. Even when we don't want to have it, we take the European way out. Well, you do it over there, and it doesn't work that way. When you're a real man and your responsibility is protecting your community, just like a lion, he don't say to the hyenas, well, they're not that close, so it's not. He don't do that. A lion says, this is my pride, this is my region, area. Anything comes in this area, I'm not negotiating about is it dangerous or not. You're going to leave, or you're going to face consequences. This is a dangerous misbehavior that's penetrated our community. We have to get strong. Just like we don't want police murdering our people, we don't sit around begging. We say, this is not acceptable. We don't say, well, you can kill us sometime, and if you do it and I don't see the video of you murdering the brother, it's okay. We don't talk like that. Well, it's not okay. It's not us. It's not acceptable, and we got to get stronger. And lastly, I would say we got to make ending sexual abuse of children in the Black world community the #1 social political agenda. This is the elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about. Why do we have so many social problems in communication with Black men and Black women? Because we have ducked the wreck. That's what we call it. I grew up in Southeast DC. When you was afraid of somebody you didn't want to fight, we call it ducking that wreck, because we call fighting wreck. You don't want that fight. The truth is heinous, but there's nowhere that I have traveled, and I've been to some places, where sexual abuse is not a core issue in the Black world community. We can't run from it because it leads into the homophilia. It leads into the hatred of Black men for Black women, the hatred of Black women for Black men, difficulty in us maintaining and holding relationships, difficulty for our children in school, hatred for Blackness leading to our openness to whiteness. All of these things are driven by the catalyst of social dysfunction that was given to us by Europeans, but we've adopted it now, and we got to do something about it, which is sexual abuse in the Black community of our children. We have to take a stand and be honest about it, put it out there that it's happening, and figure out what we're going to do to stop it. Lastly, education. We got to talk about the victories. We have gotten so used to talking about the problem that we don't talk about the victories. We talk about the losses that they killed Brother Fred Hampton, Brother Malcolm, all of these Babas, Baba Patrice Lumumbas, but we don't talk enough about the Baba Mugabes. We don't talk enough about the Jean-Jacques Dessalines or Boukman Duddies. We don't talk enough about the Queen Nannies. We don't talk enough about the Queen Nzingas. We don't talk about the victories enough. And because we are in a state of warfare, we need more encouragement. We need to constantly hear the name of the freedom fighters. No matter how it ended for them, the fact that they fought was a victory for us. Didan Kimathis. We need to hear Hannibal of Carthage, Menkaparat Tahuti Mays. We need to hear these names and learn their stories so that our young people are invigorated to know they can use sophistication. They can read the Irritated Genie, the book about the Haitian Revolution. Not just know that the Haitians won, but know how they won. Know the theory and the logic of what they did to turn one group of enemies against the others, and how were they able to do it, so that we can move smarter and wiser. So with that said, I want to tell everybody as well, get the book, War on the Horizon, Black Resistance to the Homophile Assault. It's a book I did for us to understand in 2005 what we were facing today. And right now, anybody that reads the book say, wow, you hit it on the head. So you want that book. Also, we're going to be doing a fundraiser. I was supposed to have it ready for today, but the information I need hasn't been done yet. But we're going to take this case as far as we can take it, so that we can create an international legal precedent for fighting and resisting this homophile assault. We're going to want people's support. We'll come back out and ask you. Also, the Straight Black Pride movement is a movement. We want to have chapters all across the world because we believe it's the right thing for the right time. July 25th, we want to remind brothers and sisters, we have an lecture here. We want you to come out if you're in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area so we can talk about this. And I want to end it right there. Ayo Kimathi, Irritated Genie, social architect. I thank you for listening to that long-winded discussion. And now we're going to get out of here and see if we can come back and take some question and answer. Hope I didn't go too far over.
Wow. Wow. Give thanks. Wow.
I'd like to thank Brother Genie for that very inspiring thing. So what we'll do now is open up. So any comments from those listening, questions, comments, please send them in. So what I'll do, as you can see, we have Elder Bini in the room and also Empress Devine in the room. So what I'll do at this moment, just before we move on to the question, is just to hear a little bit in terms of what Empress Devine thought, what's her, how do you think, what you're thinking on the subject, and then we'll also do the same with Elder Bini, and then we'll just open up. There's a few questions, there's a few points left in the room which I'll post up as we go along. So we start with Empress Devine.
Okay, wonderful. Can you hear me fine?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, I feel pulled and torn in so many different ways. I feel physically sick with the graphic emotions of what is going on throughout our history. And this isn't something that is 5 minutes ago. It's hundreds of years that our people have been trying to stand up for ourselves. We need to stand up for nature, but to have a group of people who are just hell-bent on destruction of everything, if it's animal, if it's a plant, if it's ourselves, it's just too much. It is really too much. And it's not necessarily about us being in a position to say, okay, to fight back. then we've got to be just as wicked and evil. I don't feel that is the case at all, because that's not the way nature is. That's not the way that we can go. But I really do commend you, my brother Irritated Genie, for the way in which you've presented the information, which is very, very clear and plain to see. We are having the same things going on in the UK in so many ways that it's more or less overlapping. And some examples of that is you explained about the school issue with our children. What I'm seeing is what's going on with our elders, and our elders that are, for one way or the other of reasoning, find themselves into sheltered accommodation or care homes or such as that kind of thing, or being cared for in their own homes, and being presented with this unsightly type of behavior of gays and lesbians. It's like, what's that got to do with somebody's care? You know, this is being a daily part of their food, entertainment, which is so sick. I mean, it is disturbing to see that is going on the level of our children, which you've already graphically expressed. We are having it here. You know, a lot of schools that are having books that are being written and curriculum that's being rewritten, and it's like, well, what happened to the basic? What happened to the basics of information? So we've gone far away from nature, from the principles such as the virtues of my art, you know, our truth, our justice, our righteousness, order, balance, harmony, reciprocity. We need to hold on to the knowledge that's there. It's out there. We're in the age and time of information, Aquarius. So we have the information out there. The presentation that you put out very clearly in your book, I would imagine, gives us a clear insight. A lot of our warriors or warriors have come and have been sounding the alarm for such a long time that it's no time for us to be fearful or to be scared. We've had a moment, which is a breather during this pandemic, whatever way that it basically is, in order to have some space to reflect. And we see that nature has the time to recharge itself. The water, the air, in that short period of time has cleared up. But I am noticing quite a lot of people that have gone into emotional shutdown and fear, which seem to be putting them in a place of overload of stress. You know, so that's basically what we're seeing right now. On the other side of that, we are having another push through with our young people, with different groups, whether it be PACM, who've been very instrumental with raising the alarm for many, many years, whereby we had Black Pound Day yesterday, and we've got a whole range of different groups, directories, that all need to just mesh together so that we all can be speaking and connecting. So our economical power, our knowledge of what's going on in each country, in each area. If one person's hurting, we're all hurt. You know, it is a damage that is going on for such a long time that the change of the our genes and our young people is being wiped out before our eyes, which is, we can't sit down and not do anything about it or say anything more about it. So our strategies in order to connect with each other, share information, build our economical power, travel as much as we can so that we do stand up for our families. We have to fight for our families, which is very simple. You have a mother, father, and your children. You know, it's very simple. This is how nature has been from the beginning. It hasn't it didn't mutate from the beginning in order to say, okay, well, this is acceptable. Too much experimentation of a demonic kind has been allowed to run rampant. And then rampant days, the pendulum has swung to another place and another position. So I feel that it's a new era, a new rising of our people, an awareness of our people to realize, hold on a minute, all this information could be hidden in so many different ways, but it's out there in social media. There is no excuse, it's out there. We just need to look at cultivating more information, constructive information, so that we're all ready to make a move and stand up and rise up.
Okay, my sister. Unfortunately, it looks like Brother Bean is dropped out for the time being. I'm not sure. So while he tries to get back in, I still remind people they can send in questions or quotes. But I would like to bring up a point that Irritated Genie touched upon and just ask him to expand on it a little bit if he could. That's this thing with the vaccines. As we know now, we're in a situation where there's a rush to find a vaccine for this COVID-19. And we know the history of vaccine, where it pertains to African people. Now, you mentioned the situation in Kenya, where vaccines was being used to sterilize our women. Could you just give a little bit of background on that, if you could, just for the sake of those who are listening? And, you know, just to show why when this COVID vaccine does come out, as we know right now, there's a trial going on there's a vaccine that's been developed in Oxford. And I know first they wanted it to test it in Kenya, but when they met some opposition, somehow they have managed now to move to South Africa, and it's actually being tested as we speak on people in South Africa. So could you just give a little bit of background pertaining to the vaccine?
Sure. So, okay. The bigger context is it is easier and more efficient to kill Black people from the perspective of the eugenicists, who are the Bill Gateses and these various other Europeans who create these ideas. It's more efficient if they can get us to do it ourselves. And the quickest, smoothest, easiest way to do it without resistance, without being accused of being evil, is if they can get us to take poison and to poison ourselves. That's what vaccines are by definition. When you put something foreign into the body that is foreign to the body, it's a poison. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't mean that in every case, every vaccine is bad. I want to be clear. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. The individuals who are sponsoring these vaccines, like in 2014, it's not a dispute. We don't have to negotiate a question about it. There's no way around it. The United Nations, so we're not talking about some little small organization to the side that did this. The United Nations said, hey, Black people in Kenya, we want to give you this vaccination that for tetanus, which is not something that people in Kenya are even getting sick from, but you don't want to catch tetanus, we're going to give you these vaccinations. But once the Kenyan doctors in 2014, thank God we had a chemist and a doctor that just said, well, let me test and see what's in this vaccination. And when he did, they found in some of the vaccines that there was a sterilization agent that would prevent women from having birth. So what they were able to say is, wow, this is deep. And they didn't necessarily find it in every vaccine, which meant they've put it in enough of it to sterilize women, but they didn't make it so obvious, which means they knew what they were doing. If it was in every single one of them, it'd be different. But when it's not, that means they're intentionally calculating the destruction of Black people. Now, to put that into zero in on an even greater depth, we have a U.S. government. I didn't put it in this document, but if y'all want to see it, I can go pull it up. But there's an actual U.S. government contract where they were contracting. Now, I want you to hear this. Now, we know that in the 1970s, Henry Kissinger created the NSSM 200, the National Security Study Memorandum. This was all going into what they call global depopulation, global population control, Global 2000. And what that was saying is that the world has too many people, particularly in the colored world, which specifically many countries in Africa were named. Kenya was one of the countries. And they said we have to basically essentially exterminate large numbers of people in these regions. Kenya was one of the places. Just now in 2016, they came out with a government contract saying that the men in Kenya are too masculine. Now remember, 2014, they sent this vaccination that was really a sterilization agent to prevent black women from being able to have children. And we were able to stop it at 500,000 because of the Kenyan doctors and the researchers, but it could have been 14 million. But nevertheless, so they're going after the women on that regard. But the U.S. government contract says, listen, the U.S. government is looking for a contractor who can help figure out what we can do about the masculinity of Kenyan men. And this is how they regarded it. The men are very physically strong. They were aggressive, and they described them as being high achieving. These men, have high goals to achieve strong. They want to be the heads of their household. They want to take care of their families and be the ones that provide for their families. And they said this could lead to terrorism. And many of the acts of terrorism, that this kind of masculine energy is good for terrorists. So we want to stop the threat of terrorism. So we need to figure out what we can do to decrease the masculinity in Kenyan men. Now, I actually have the document. You can actually look up it on the internet. It'll show you the document saying that the men in Kenya are too masculine. And it also stated definitively that they're anti-homosexual. They're against homosexuality. And all these things were listed as issues, and they were trying to contract. How much were they asking for? $600,000 for a contractor to come in to bid on it and say, can you help us make the men less masculine? Now, that's just the first phase. That was 2016. So if we look at that in this context, we're looking at they're identifying which countries in Africa are having booming populations. And then it goes to right what we were just talking about. And now they're saying for genocide, we're going to implement multiple ones of these things. So if we look at Kenya, what you're talking about. So let's look at the four we talked about. We talked about chemical biological warfare. We talked about miscegenation. We talked about direct warfare. And we talked about homophilia. So in this case, you got the chemical and biological warfare, because they're saying that the population of the Kenyan families is rising too high. They're going to have a huge population. We want to stop that population. So they go for the women with the chemical and biological warfare with the tetanus vaccination, which is poisoning the women to not be able to have children and sterilize them. We have the direct warfare by tying the men's masculinity to terrorism, which now they can classify the Kenyans as terrorists. And now they can start the process of attacking them directly through the terrorism label. We have the homophilia by saying that their masculinity is a problem. We need to make them accepting of homosexuality, which then, and this was in 2016, I told you, I came back in 2019 when they had announced, we think we've worked hard enough. We're about to get them to legalize homosexuality. We were able to get down on the ground and help to resist that. But the point being is that this four-tiered, there's one that we left out that would be relevant to this too. And I think every one of us will shake our heads strong on this one. And this is a problem we've been facing for many years, and we have not come up with the proper active solution for it. None of these things are possible without the Mobutu. What I mean is a black person, not the ones who don't know, not the ones who helped and didn't know what they were doing. They've been able to find black people who know what they're trying to do to kill black people, know what they're trying to do to harm our people, and will take money and any positions of power they can get. Many of them are leaders on the continent. Many of them are leaders in our community, and will do the bidding of the European for them so that we don't even see the war that's coming, because the people who are supposed to be alerting us and helping us fight it are the ones endorsing and promoting this. So through this process in Kenya, literally, they're trying to exterminate Kenyan people. We have the actual evidence here, but because we don't have dialogues like this and haven't gotten together with the Kenyan brothers and sisters to organize and say, this is the stated goals that they're trying to do. Now, what are we going to do to counter it? That's why we haven't been able to resist it as well as we need to.
Okay, thanks. So I know Brother Bini is back, so a few questions is coming, but just before we do that, I'd like to hear Brother Bini is yeah, so can you just comment on the meeting today? So I'll put Brother Bini up. So Brother Bini, if you could give a comment on what you've heard. Hold on, your mic's muted. Let me see. Yeah. We need to unmute the mic. Your mic's muted. Bini. Yeah, the mic's muted. You need to unmute your mic. No, I can't mute it. You need to unmute your mic or we can't hear you. Okay, yeah.
Need to
Could you
unmute.
unmute your mic?
We can hear you now.
Unmute your mic, Bini.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right. You're coming through now. Yeah, that's fine.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. You can carry on.
He's not muted.
No. No. I'm just saying, I'd just like to hear Bini's comment on what he's heard so far.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, I can
Jeff,
hear you.
You can hear now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, that's
Yes,
right.
sir.
Yeah.
Talk, man, talk.
Yeah, just Bini,
Okay.
just say what you say.
Greetings, Genie.
How you doing, Baba? I don't know if he can hear us.
It looks like he's frozen.
Okay, I'm just saying to Genie, greetings. And the last time Genie was yeah, so I was saying that what he's saying, yeah, man, I'm okay. The white terrorists, yeah, we're not frozen on this screen, but the white terrorists not able to surprise us, and they shouldn't be able to surprise us in today's world and technology. We know they want to make sure this broadcast don't go out, but before I get into what Genie was saying, Genie, I'm looking forward to you to accompany us on DRC next year, April. If you can make it, it'll be good because you'll be able to talk to some of the young people in the huge temple that we go to every year with. Has about 5,000 people in that temple, and they're very young. And it would be good for you to make that trip with us. And it's actually the 100th anniversary of Fuma Kimbangu, which is one of our spiritual leaders. So what you were saying, I'm just hoping that African people can, and globally, can wake up to the reality that these white terrorists are clean and wiping us out. And if you just sit around idle, twiddling your thumb and feel that it's not happening, then I say to people, they're just crazy. Yeah, and you're too much into white people. You have too much love for white people. And that's why we need to move to the next level of our struggle. And what Genie has started in terms of these batty boys, them continue their work, and lesbian, and what they're doing, to corrupt our people. We definitely need to take a stand and fight that, because clearly, biological warfare, we know about it from way back in the 60s. We used to write about it in those magazines that we used to produce. So what we need to do is to get, as you said, Genie, to get the communication between us and pass information and go on in terms of being on YouTube or the Facebook or Twitter, whatever it is, to make sure information constantly goes.
Oh.
Cut.
Wow. It's being cut. So, okay, while he gets back on, there's a few questions here. So I'll just go through them quickly. I'll post them up. There's a question here. Don't know if you can see it on screen, by the brother Sabello. He's based in Azania. And he's asking about the broadcast that you'll be doing on the 27th. Would it be available for them to watch in Azania? Because it's something that they would love to watch.
Yeah, on the 25th. I'm thinking about if we can find I'm thinking about if we can find a way to broadcast it live. If I'm able to do that, then we'll broadcast it live. If I'm not able to do that, we'll make a DVD and it'll be available for purchase on our website, waronthehorizon.com.
Okay. And there's another question here from Shireen Williams. And he said, how can we galvanize Black men to jump away from the Black Lives Matters movement and their own African-centered movement? Just as the Black Panthers did when they moved away from the old Panthers movement to the Stokely Carmichael era. So,
yeah, so
that's from Sister Williams.
Sister Williams, that's one of the things we've been doing. We just started Friday night, and literally this is our third night. What we realized is it was very cleverly crafted for them to use the word Black, and it's hard to move away from anything that has Black for those that love ourselves. So what we've done is, that's why we show what we showed earlier. What we're asking everybody to do. BLM now stands for Black Liberation Movement. And so we're going to be making the shirts, and I showed the slide for what it looks like. We're going to send that symbol out. We're going to put that out on social media. We want everybody to do that. And we want it to be clear. There are two movements that grew. That's how we're going to sell it. Two movements have come out of Black Lives Matter. The gay one, that's gay lesbian movement. That's their movement. And anybody that wants to support that and work with the gays goes that direction. Then there's the Black Liberation Movement, which is exclusive. You cannot be gay. You cannot be lesbian. You cannot be transsexual. We're not about that. We don't agree with it. We're not negotiating. We're about saving and preserving and protecting Black life. That's BLM. We're going to take that. It's ours now. It's Black Liberation Movement. And I think that all of us, those words ring together very well. So we're not going to let them hold and keep the Black on this movement that's gay. We're not going to do that. We're going to take it. We've taken the BLM, and it stands for Black Liberation Movement. And then now when we go in the door, whenever you organize with that term, say, let's be clear, we are not in favor of the LGBT. If you are, leave now, because we're not integrating this movement, not just with anybody that's not Black, but if you're involved in that behavior, go to the GLM, the gay lesbian movement. That's your movement over there. We're not working with that movement. That's your movement. In this way, those of us who want to stay committed and clear, we've created our own divorce from this thing that they've created.
Ashe.
Ashe, definitely. There's another question here from Brother Amani. And he's basically saying, understanding African spirituality is growing throughout the African world. He wants to know your views in terms of African spirituality in the defense of our culture, because he sees that it's one of the fundamentals of our culture. So what's your view in terms of African spirituality and how that can, we can use that in our liberation?
You know, and it's anytime I get a question that allows me to give a plug for my Baba, I love to use it. So my Baba is Baba Ashra Kwesi, through which I met the warrior. So that's where I met this warrior, and I do mean warrior. If y'all, for those that don't know Baba Bini, that is a warrior right there that you just saw. I met him in Uganda with Baba Kwesi. But what I learned from Baba Kwesi, and in the way he did it, I think is foundational because it's spiritual, but it's also practical, and it works for what we're talking about today. He told me our ancestral story, which was Asar, Aset, and Haru. And what it's taken me years to process it my way, and I'm not gonna go through the whole story, but for those who want to learn, you can go hear the story for yourself. But essentially, the earliest creation story was an immaculate conception story that was not a European story of Mary, but rather it was an African story through which the other story came. And it was of a god or a man, Asar, the first man, the first woman, Aset, or the goddess, Asar and Aset, and they didn't have a child. And Asar had an evil brother named Set who killed him, cut his bodies into 14 pieces, and his wife went and found all the pieces and went through tremendous things to get those pieces. And so put his body back together to give him a proper burial. And his spirit was so overwhelmed by the fact that she would take his physical dead body and put it back together, that her love for him and commitment was so great, even in physical death, that his spirit gave her a child. So it was called an immaculate conception because it was clean. They never touched. But essentially, she bore a child. And then that child was raised to be a warrior, not a coward, not no peace lover. He was raised to be a warrior because his job given to him from his mother was to avenge your father's death, to reclaim his throne, and to bring the kingdom back into balance, peace, and harmony. And so what I've taken from that story is something that I think that all of us can use in this sense. First of all, Haru was the ultimate hero because he's the one that defeated his evil uncle Set. But really, when you look at it, there are a bunch of heroes. The greatness of Asar as a leader and a man, a black man, was so great that in death, his wife revered him so much that she was able to take that which was of him and put it into a child, which is a lesson for us as black men. What our ancestors were telling us, that our women are so wonderful that if we produce something great, that we think that we've done is great, but she's such a marvelous creature that she will take it, and in something that has not even been born yet, she can grow it even greater through time, which means if we do good, our women take it, absorb it, and they manufacture good and greatness at a level that we don't have that capacity. They do, but we have to produce something for them to duplicate. And so that's one hero. But then when we talk about the heroism of the wife, it's arguable that she's the real hero because all hope had been lost when the man was physically dead. But through her greatness and her courage and her loyalty and her commitment and her compassion, she did not forsake him being gone and turn her back. She remembered the great things about him. So the real seed that was in her was not physical because he was gone. It was his greatness and his marvel that she was able to say, this was what your father was. Maybe she wasn't as physically strong as the father, but she was able to make the son that strong. Maybe she didn't do all those things, but she was able to do it because there's some magic in the black woman that she can do that. This is our story. Nobody gave us this story. And then that son, when his mother put the responsibility on him to fight, did not cower. It was not the man that made it. It wasn't the man who, and that's something about us as black men. We don't understand, and we need to learn this. And black women need to learn this. Black men, the greatest of black male fighters, are not that way. You look at Shaka Zulu because of men. They are, men do train them, but I'm saying, you want to get a black man to fight, you get a black woman to tell him he has to fight and something has a meaning. And she said, you got to do this. And for the black woman, there's no length that a black man will not go to produce something that she will be proud of. So that energy that we need to believe in ourselves and do what we need to do, our ancestral story told us we ain't going to do it without our women. And so that's a part of our spiritual story that our women need to realize we can't do this without you. So we need your help. But then we got to also know we can't beat up on our own women and then expect them to help us. And the last thing I would say in regard to this, And this is a hard part for us to take, but our ancestors told us how to take it. And I'm trying to answer his question in terms of spirituality. I think this story, even if you're a Christian, Muslim, whoever you are, this is just a story of our ancestors. It doesn't belong to a religion. It's our story that they gave us. This is the hard part, but I think we can use it. Our ancestors didn't say we were entirely good. They did not say that. We get it wrong. We know that the European is entirely bad from our experience with them. But our ancestors didn't tell us that we were entirely good. They said Asar and Set. It was almost a balance. And there was a point where the evil in Set actually had conquered the Asar and killed the good. But in the end, our ancestors told us the good in us as African people will always conquer and outweigh the evil, because that's who we are, because we are spiritual people who are aligned with the Creator. That is who we are. I'm saying that to say, in ancient times, we saw this. I've been to Kemet, and what our ancestors told us on the walls was the stories. We had gotten to the point where we weren't thinking about warfare and all of this kind of stuff. And so what happened? We were concentrating on building pyramids and architecture and engineering. All that stuff is wonderful. But then the Hyksos came, and we weren't prepared to fight, and they destroyed us.
20 hours.
And so when our ancestors decided to fight back and they expelled the Hyksos, they began to change, and they incorporated something else back into spirituality. And what they said is, we can never forget Set. And what I mean by that is, we don't have to look at Set as always just being evil, as you doing something bad to your brother or sister. You know, when you was acting up when you were little, I think most of us know about these old school parents. They would set you straight. You know, you've been acting, they come in there, you get a spanking or you get dealt with very harshly, but it was out of love. But there's a need to put a left foot forward, a need to stand up and be able to use that Setian force of aggression to say no in the way of conflict. So we as African people have to realize, sure, we have to be kind to one another, warm to one another, but also when things get out of hand, like what we're looking at, that we're dealing with these European forces, we're not just calling on Asar, the great father. We got to call our uncle, because say, uncle, we got some problems over here. These folks ain't acting right. We have to get some act up going on. And in order to do that, we're going to have to call on somebody that does these kind of things. And we have to be able to balance all these elemental forces, which is our spiritual story. And we can use that story to do almost anything that we're trying to do as it relates to helping Black people move forward.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, Shay. I just like to ask Empress Devine, have you got any comments around that particular question in terms of African spirituality being used as a tool to help liberate us?
Well, you probably would hear a lot of people say we're going to chant down. You know, there's a movement of dancing, of chanting, of alchemy. That's part of our spirituality. In nature, that's part of our spirituality. Our drumming is part of our spirituality. You know, we are the ancestors. Brother puts it so perfectly. We are the ancestors, what he's talking about. We are the ancestors, and the ancestors are born in us. Africa is born in us. So we are the Africans. We are the ancestors that's returned to put things right, not to stand back and watch and carry on like, you know, we don't understand what's going on. We're here. And that's what the awakening is about. That's what our spirituality is about. When it don't feel right, when it don't look right, when something in your gut, you feel that. When something in your heart, you feel that. When something in your mind, you're like telling you, hold on a minute. Something about this picture don't look right. Our spirit is speaking to us. Our ancestors is through our DNA. It's coursing through all of us. So we are the Nat Turners and the ancient ones. We are all of that. You know, time isn't, you know, just 6,000 years ago. Time is this moment right now. And we are all of that. Plus the momentum of where we're going into now is for us to realize that we're here to create. We're here to sow the seeds and create. And let us move forward in order to do that. With our minds, with our thoughts, you know, when it comes to the idea of seeing and hearing and visualizing, this is part of our creativity. This is part of our spirituality. This is what we've always been doing. You know, it's some other groups will want to turn around and demonize that and say, okay, you need to be put into a mental institution because our group can't do that very well. But why are you know, able to do that? But that's all part of nature is us. For us to move away from nature, manipulate it and demonize it, that is our home. We dare not do that. We lose our home. Our home is our body as well. But our home is where we are. The trees, the birds, the water, the land. This is our home. Once we are planting the seeds of food, I noticed that was in your list, brother Irritated Genie. We've got to be cultivating. We can't be trusting that, okay, our colonizers is going to be giving us the right, safe food to be eating. You mean you go to the shops and you just don't know what you're eating. Exactly. Then plant the seeds. Know what you're eating. You know, we have skills. But sometimes we get too comfortable and lazy and think, oh, okay, we can, you know, just order this and order that. But when the system is shut down and locked down, which it can do, can have a blackout any moment. You can't always order online, but you can pick from the earth. Mother Nature is there. Once we are giving our attention, once we are cultivating, she will be. But if we just keep chopping down trees, we don't have no oxygen. We don't have, what have we got? We're losing our home, devastating our home and destroying our home. So spirituality is in everything, in our very breath. You know, the first breath that the child is taking, the baby is taking, to the last that we're taking, that's part of our spirit, our barakah, everything is part of our lives. So, you know, I really, really feel humbled. I feel honored. And I feel, I don't want to use the word hopeful, but I feel excited at this time that we are in a position in order to have blueprints like what you've put down, like what Marcus Garvey has put down, and all of our other leaders, warrioresses, Nanny of the Moon, the rest of them, Queen and Singer. We have our blueprints of being able to say, hold on, let's stand up and fight. Let's stand up. All of our lives count on our purpose. All of our lives count on a collective purpose. And we're here in order to set the record right, set it straight. Because all this foolishness that's been going on for so long, we know it don't work properly like that. We're losing our home.
All right, there's another question here, because there's quite a few still to go through. Again, the brother from South Africa, Brother Sabello, said, what is your thoughts on the directory? I think that's Pan-Africanism as a tool by which to strengthen global African network.
Okay. And let me say, if he's talking about Pan-Africanism as a philosophy, here's the interesting thing. This is going to be, people going to take this. I hope you don't take it too hard, but this is the interesting thing. I was groomed Black nationalist Pan-African completely. Here's the problem. From 1995 till about 2015 or so. So we talking about 20 years. And a part of this is due to the fact whether I consider it a gift, other people might consider it a curse, but I was given the sight on this homophile part, that particular part, very early, like as early as 95, 96. So I was lecturing and talking about this. And maybe in the beginning, it was the fact that many people just didn't see it. And this sounds crazy. Once we were able to get it where we could show videos with PowerPoint and stuff like that, then people started going, whoa, okay, we get it now. But my point being, my natural assumption was that Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism would naturally once we showed that this homophilia was a problem and we should resist it, then everybody would agree. I'll be honest with you. I fought 20 years trying to get Black nationalists and Pan-Africans to take a definitive position against this, and I didn't win that battle. So what I've done is this. As a traditional belief system, Baba Garvey, the Black Panther Party, you know, I'm thinking of the brothers Swapo and all of the brothers and sisters that fought on the African continent. You know, I'm 100% on board with it as a traditional belief system. In a modern context, I've divorced all of these belief systems because this is my position. If you don't know a Black man supposed to be with a Black woman, we don't share the same philosophy. We don't share the same economic philosophy. We don't share the same political, social. I don't want a Black man to be with nobody but a Black woman because it's treason. I don't want a Black woman to be nobody but a Black man because we won't win without our women. I'm not negotiating that. I thought that was a standard. I thought that was a Black Pan-Africanist standard, but I've come to the realization that was my understanding of it. That is not what it is. So we've created a straight Black pride movement, which says this. If you look at all of the traditional things that you find in Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism, we share the exact same philosophy, except we're very definitive. It's non-negotiable for us. There's not no homosexuality being accepted. It ain't nothing that we turning our blind eye towards either. We don't want it in our space. We don't agree with it. We're going to fight to remove it and eliminate it from the group of practices of our people. And it's a militant position. It's non-negotiable. It's not nothing to sit down and talk about unless you're talking about which direction we go to push them further out. We're not negotiating Black men with Black women. There's nothing to debate there. We have our women. We have to show some loyalty to them. Why should we think that they would help us and support us and continue to raise us as children and give us all that love so that we go out and abandon them and turn and won't give that same thing to a daughter of theirs? We can't do that. So I agree with the basis of Pan-Africanism, of African unification. But as a practical reality, I have only found, we created it because we didn't have one platform internationally for African unification that says there's certain behaviors that we will not tolerate. You cannot rape children in our midst and we accept it. You're going to have a problem, a non-negotiable problem. If we can determine that you're actually guilty of raping little children in our community, we're not negotiating with you. It's not a friendly exchange. And there's no philosophy we have that says that there's any limits to what we have the rights to do in defense of our children. So to the degree that a person is Pan-African and Black nationalist and agrees with that, then we're in alignment. To the degree that they want to debate that, then, you know, we'll tell them where we stand, but it's not a debate for us. And so my Pan-Africanism or Black nationalism, we call it straight Black pride. That's our social, political, spiritual philosophy. Even in the spiritual philosophy, I may not classify as a religion, but I can say our ancestors gave us the Asar Asted Haru story, which taught us that we're supposed to love our women and that they got our back through everything. I believe in that spiritually. That's good enough for me to go forward and help my people.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about you, Sister Empress Devine? What's your thought on that particular question?
Repeat the question.
Okay. It says, it says, asking what's the thought on the directory that Pan-Africanism should be a philosophy by which to strengthen or create a global African network. It should be one of Pan-Africanism, you know, in terms of African people coming together. That should be the philosophy that we come together under.
There's a massive shift and there's a massive movement that's going on. And I think there is a moment of where the pendulum swings to a point of our usefulness of wherever we are with regards to, you know, building Pan-Africanists. And it's just talking about all. That's really what the word means. Pan means all. It's very necessary for us to know where our position is, rather than this hazy, phasey behavior mentality that people are just not sure about. You know, people be sitting there eating a burger and don't realize that the burger is mincemeat of babies, you know, injection of babies and goodness knows what. We need to be aware of these things and clear. I feel that Pan-Africanism has given us an opportunity to highlight and raise the alarm, raise the vibration of our awareness to say, hold on a minute, we have got to be looking at what's going on here and making a stand. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're in a position whereby people will be bought out, or leaders will be corrupted. But we've got to make a stance on what is belonging to us, our history, our spirituality, our stories, our herstories. We've got to make sure that we can take and reclaim and sankofa all that belong to us. That's part of us. But it's going to evolve to more and greater as our awakening on our new era of information starts to come up, because our younger generation will be coming up with blueprints, new blueprints to take us forward. You know, so we can't just throw it out. There's no point in just throwing it out. But I agree with Brother Genie that, yeah, we have to make a stance and be clear. It's nothing complicated. It's very, very simple. And it's about standing for ourselves. If we don't stand for ourselves, you think all those that have got agenda against us, not just one group of people.
That's right.
You know, you can't go to Jamaica and feel okay that you can go and be around your people, because you've got different groups now that are making a road, making a wall, privatizing the land, the beaches, so that you can't use it. And the same people that are destroying a lot of the businesses, that we are just spending money on what? On food, on hair care, and all these different aspects, and not realizing that if we don't take charge, if we don't take position, if we don't take control of what's going on, not just where we are at home, but network globally, then what's going on? You know, we're allowing other people in order to have a laugh, have a joke, have the opportunity in order to say, well, you know, I've just taken out another one and another one. Why is it that I'm seeing on TV, and this is what's really putting fear in a lot of people, and it sends a clear message of fear for the whole world, that a black man or African man or woman or child is being killed, hung, assassinated daily. This has been going on throughout history. Yes, our Pan-African groups have been able to highlight this information. The alarm has to be wrong. But it's now the whole world is seeing it. I'm very uncomfortable about it. But it's not about sitting there and being uncomfortable. Push forward in order to say, to save this planet, to save Mother Earth, to save our home, we've got to stand up and do the right and correct thing. We can't just sit back and say, well, it's got nothing to do with me. That's them over there. No, the world is small. It's very, very small. And we have so much in common with each other. To save Mother Earth. Somebody speak. Save Mother Earth.
No, I don't know where that came from. I'm just looking at
Mother Earth, absolutely. Shame. That's our home.
Well, that's true. That's true. And I'd just like to say, you know, in answer to that question, just to add a little bit in. As you know, this platform is a platform of the Pan-African Congress movement. And one thing that I can say in the time that I've been a member of this group, there's certain things that's non-negotiable. And over the years, it's a group that's been going since 1974. And Elder Bini, as you saw, was one of the founder members of the group, and he'll be able to enlighten you on the trials and tribulations they've had because they stick to their principle. You know, and it's certain things, as Brother Genie was saying, there's no argument, there's no negotiation. It is what it is, and the PACM will never budge. You know, will never budge on those things. So yes, Pan-Africanism, to me, there's too many people going around saying they're Pan-Africanists, yet you can see by their behaviors, they are integrationists, they are cool when it comes to the gay and lesbian issue. And groups that's been around for years that have come to shock us, groups that we have worked with in the past for many years, and when they came out and made certain statements, it really shocked us. But as far as the PACM is concerned, we're sticking to our guns, and that is why, you know, we made it necessary get invited onto all these big platforms, because people know where we are coming from and what we're about. But if we're really about Pan-Africanism and the love of our people, we have to be honest, right? And we have to be honest and say when certain things manifest itself into Africa, that's not for us, and we have to fight it down. And that now takes me on to, because I know I'm conscious of the time, so we'd say another 15 minutes or so. There's a point that you touched on, Ghana, and how the military bases that has been set up. We know Ghana's one point, but we know it's all over Africa. And I like to tie that in as well with Bill and Melinda Gates and how they are being used. Because I was saying to my wife this morning, well, Bill Gates, come to think of it, Bill Gates is his expertise in software engineering. That's what we all know. We're both about Microsoft. So why all of a sudden he's now a world authority on vaccination? Everywhere you look to do with the vaccination question, Bill Gates is there, and he's been invited to various high-powered lectures. Governments are putting out the red carpets for him. So as you say, Bill and Melinda Gates, we as African people, a campaign must be started to keep them off the continent, physically stop them from going there. So that's what I'd like to touch on, Brother Gene, again, a little bit more in terms of the military expansion in Africa, and looking at specifically Ghana, and then we look also at Bill and Melinda Gates and what is their real agenda. Okay, so if we go back to George Bush Jr. from 2000 to 2008, he did what is called AFRICOM, the Africa Command. And except, I think, Zimbabwe, of course, under the leadership of His Excellency Baba Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, they didn't allow for actual base. They allowed them to have some technological thing there, but they wouldn't allow for a base. But the majority of the countries in Africa agreed with AFRICOM, which was to allow the U.S. to have a military base in their country on some level, some more extensive than others. Obama continued the expansion of AFRICOM. What these are designed to do is a couple of things. And I think if we go back to that first clip that we watched in this program, we saw where there were Native Americans who were fighting, and the U.S., well, the English had all these different bases on the American continent. There was not America at the time. One part of it is the planned overthrow of the African continent. So one part of it is that they want access to the resources. That's a simple one. You know, we have the largest amount of resources on the planet are in Africa. Without the cobalt and without the, what is it that Congo has that goes into the cell phones? It's called, it's not cobalt, it's coltan. The coltan in Congo, without the Congo, you don't have cell phones, so, to make it simple. So
when we look at the rubber in Ghana and in the Congo as well, in different regions, Brazzaville, basically, when we look at these different regions, the African continent has the wealth of the world. Dr. John Henry Clark said it best, I think. He said, Africa has things that other people want, feel they can't live without, and don't want to pay for. So in order to prevent the situation where African nations, where they talk about our growth and expansion in our numerical numbers, which means Africa has the youngest population on the planet. They saw all of this coming as early as 2000, actually in the 70s with Global 2000. And what they're seeing is our constant population expansion is the potential for us, if we wake up and Africanize our minds and unite in a tangible way economically, we become instantly overnight a powerhouse. If we could tie the wealth and resource from Nigeria to the wealth and resource of South Africa and actually do it in the interest of African people, we overnight, and then tie that through the Congo, through the Central Africa, we become the economic world power, world house overnight. So to prevent that from happening, one is these bases, so that if and when we begin to decide we want to do what we need to do, which is unify, they don't have to land in Asia to figure out how they're going to prevent it from happening. They can go to their already existing bases in our countries. When the next Patrice Lumumba rises up, they'll have a base there already with Africans who they have trained and they pay, and they can so go whack them. So like it makes what Eisenhower did to our Baba Patrice Lumumba through a process that required so much organizational skill and effort and money. It makes it much easier this time. They're here. They're training our troops. And what will those troops do? Whatever they're trained to do, which will be kill the Africans who want independence. So it's a preemptive effort to get access to our resources for a long period of time. And if they decide that there's no longer a reason for them, because now that they have the cure to malaria, that was one of the reasons why they didn't fully come in and take over the African continent, because the malaria was killing them. They couldn't deal with the environment. They can deal with the environment now. It's a temperate environment. It's nice. They have their eyes on the design of the African continent, similar to what they had on America. So what better way to come in and take the African continent than set up military bases there for the invasion? I mean, it's not really that complicated in terms of us seeing what's happening. They're preparing for another 1,000-year white domination rulership of the planet. And we are the target because we are the powerhouse and the greatest threat. Physically, we're the greatest threat. And let me put it in a different perspective, then I get to Melinda and Bill Gates. We look at ourselves as being surrounded because they have all these powerful nations, Russia, America, France, militarily powerful nations around the world, China. But Brother Dale Jones, the war correspondent, taught us differently. He says we're not looking at it through their lens. Through their lens, we have them surrounded. We are the only race who have 1 billion people on one continent, 500 we got 50 million here in the US, 100 million in South America, millions. They're not just millions in Europe, millions with skills and a direct link to the African continent and a consciousness. And then we have hundreds of millions in Asia who just have not recognized that they're African, usually due by the barrier of Islam. But if you look at us in a physical capacity, we surround the entire world. And if we were connected and unified, we have the potential to do what no other race can do anywhere in the world. If someone wants to attack Africa, there's no nation on the planet. Well, I'm not gonna say no nation. Let me say it differently. The major nations of the world outside of Russia and China have incredibly huge, relevant populations of Black people in those very nations that are even part of their militaries, which would be able to say, hey, I don't think it would be a good idea to attack that place in Africa because you might not do so well here. There are 50 million of us in America. If we were organized to do so, we would be able to say, you don't want to go and do what you're doing in Zimbabwe because things not going to be so friendly here in this place. There are people in Europe that could do the same thing. Nobody is positioned like us. We don't look at it that way because we're not thinking like that. They're looking at it like that because they're like, they know there's always one person, a Baba Garvey, a Nat Turner, an Nzinga. There's always one that'll come and say, wait a minute, we got some good positioning, and figure out how to tie these things together to make it workable. So that's one thing. It's just a pure military construct of why they're putting military there. It's military warfare. It's a siege of the African continent. Number two, Bill and Melinda Gates. Bill Gates' father was a eugenicist. Again, what is eugenics? Eugenics is the science of racial genocide. What does that mean? If you got 1 billion people you want to kill, it is not practical to try to do it with military weapons, because 1 billion people will find a way to fight back. Now you got some portion of those 1 billion people who are looking to hurt you, and you create all kind of issues worldwide with people saying, why are you doing this? This is wrong. And you create a resistance. So the science of eugenics is, okay, we're going to kill 1 billion people. Maybe we'll kill 20 million of them with physical warfare. Maybe we'll kill another 40 million of them with chemical and biological warfare. Maybe we'll kill 100 million of them, getting them to fight each other in warfare or with famine. So eugenics is a process of trying to figure out what is the most user-friendly, simplistic way to slaughter these people. It's a science. How do you kill this many people in a way that works? And what Bill Gates' father got involved in was, okay, with Margaret Sanger and these others, they were saying, look, let's stop them from, well, first it was, they're going to have babies, then let's kill the babies. So put the abortion clinics in their homes. This was not to help Black people. This was part of the eugenics. We need to destroy their population. Let's convince them that it's right and it's correct to kill babies when they're born, and then encourage them to do so. Another aspect of it was, okay, well, promote different types of behavior, which we now see through a Planned Parenthood. They train on homosexuality, how to be a lesbian and homosexual, the different sexual practices you can involve yourself in. They actually have trainings towards this. It's about depopulation of our people. That is the eugenics construct. His father was a well-known eugenicist. He has taken over the mantle from his father and has said he's figured out that if he convinces Black people with a smile and paying a few of our leaders some money, that the leaders will authorize, whether they know what they're doing or not. Many of them don't care. They're getting money. The extermination of the race in his interest, but through them. So in other words, he doesn't have to convince the people on the ground to kill themselves. He only has to convince the leader, the super chief in any African nation. The super chief says, hey, give your children and stick them with this thing, because I'm getting a bunch of money. He leaves that part out for the people. The people, believing that their super chief cares about their interests, zaps themselves with this thing. And in 5-10 years, all those people die. And literally, they already have their AFRICOM bases there. They already know the kind of death and destruction that's going to happen, because they keep track of how many people got the vaccine that's going to kill them. We have a process that's very strategic. They can start moving in populations because they know when the death rates is going to start exploding with death. They can say, okay, it's going to be 20 years. This one, the incubation period is 15 years for this vaccination that people are going to start dying. We gave it to 20 million people in this region. So let's start moving whites in 5 years before, because they're going to have a huge death toll that's going to be coming. We can claim that it's some other, and this is how they do it. They create the problem with something that they call a vaccine. Then when people die, they scramble and say, we got to figure out what's happening. We'll find a cure for it. And they give you another poisonous vaccine to kill more people until they've killed everybody they want to kill. That is the design. If we don't wake up and just simply say, no. In fact, we'll say, you know what? We love your vaccines. And since they're so great, we're going to take your vaccines and we're going to give them to all of your people. Because we think that since it's such a great vaccine, all of Europe should have the vaccine. So let every European in Europe have the great benefit of your wonderful, benevolent vaccination, and see how they, how they deal with that. The point being, this is, and this is what is so disgusting. I'll be perfectly honest. I found it very disgusting The African Union had their meeting. I think it was the 2021. It was 2019 or 2020. It was either this year or last year. And as the keynote speaker, they actually had Mr. Black Genocide himself, Bill Gates, come in. It's called the African Union, where the leaders of African nations are supposed to be coming to hear something. And they put Mr. Extermination of the Race up before our people as someone for us to listen to, as he gives billions of dollars to exterminate our people to the leaders of our nations. It's really unacceptable. And that means we have to do something about the leadership that we have. And it's not, I'm not going to be unfair. It's not just the African nations. Any Black community around this country, we're faced with a crisis situation. We are inundated with Mobutus. The Europeans, and I don't know how they're doing it in the Arab nations, but in the European nations, I can tell you, wherever you find Black people, whoever has access to the money, to the resources of that community, to the education system, to something that can sign a document and say go, they have systematically put in place promosexuals and or homophiles, somebody that's actively involved in the behavior or someone that is in favor of the behavior, someone who will do their bidding and someone that will say no to anything that's progressive for our people, and someone that would openly say, go ahead and give the vaccines to my people, even if we tested and showed that it's killing Black people. For whatever money they would receive and whatever benefits they would receive, they would come out before us and articulate the justification for that which would ultimately be the extermination of African people. The Mobutus are a problem.
Serious.
Right. Serious. No, I'm conscious of time, but sister, have you got a view on that, especially around Bill and Melinda Gates? And then I'll go into the final question.
Well, we hear say that he that they started off with Microsoft. You know, most people have got 1, 2, 3 phones, and this is what we're using on a daily basis, which is now a tracking device. You know, the same hasn't hidden the information about depopulation. All of that information is out there. It's very clear, very plain. So who is going to be sitting down and feeling, oh, it's all right that we go along depopulation of your own people at such a vast rate? Why? Why is that okay? One have to question that. You know, there's something that is very disturbing and out of order. It's imbalance. That's not a balanced thing to do. You know, it's very, very to a point that's of an alarming rate. But you know, people just look at it as an opportunity in order to say, okay, well, if I don't want to have a child, then I can use maybe a contraception of some kind in order to say, I'm keeping within my 2.5, you know, child that I want to have, rather than wait or practice different ways of having our children when we can, and those systems are there. But when you've got you know, this, I remember watching on TV, I know this is going off point, watching on TV this idea of these different films. People ask, oh, what's your favorite film? When people now say that they're into horror films, and you see the state of the horror films and the psychological aspects of what a horror film is, and the vampire, you know, vampire that's drinking blood, and you know, a horror film whereby it's just pure shooting and killing, and you know, all these demonic stuff that's going on, that's now being programmed in people's mind, in people's psyche. It's like, people say they love that, people say they love horror films, but that is part of the food that people are eating. So people not thinking correctly at all to say, okay, yes, I want to have birth control so that, you know, and then at the opposite end of the scale, they're going to rush off in order to say, okay, well, I want to have a designer baby, please. Come on, it's just so really messed up. You know, very, very disturbing. We have gone right off the balance of where nature is. And nature comes to a point where it just throws things off. So the pendulum is going to just box clear off what needs to clear off naturally. It will do that. It will do that because they think that they're clever enough to design this and design that and play with the weather, play and manipulate the energies and the vortex of life, basically, in the seas, in the air, in the planet, in the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom's been crying out. It's being exterminated at a vast rate. The plant kingdom is going that way too. And us, somebody have to stand up and say, hold on a minute, dress back. That can't keep going on. It's just, you know, how many people or how many different groups around the world that says that they want their arrest? Italy's one.
And if I could,
I'm a bit confused as to, well,
hello?
What are they waiting for?
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say something on what she was saying. I just wanted to add one more thing. I thought she made a great point. If we look at Bill Gates, one more thing I'd like to say about it. People know about him with the Microsoft and the vaccination, but do you know the other primary business he's involved in right now?
With the food?
With the food and the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can control seeds and you can control what people put in their body,
that's right.
We're talking about chemical and biological warfare on the entire level, because now you can determine, you can kill them through the foods that they eat or the vaccinations you give them. It's a total control. And when you linked it to the horror films, one of the things we do, and it's a DVD we have called Possessed. And so when you said it, I thought I would bring it up again on War on the Horizon. You can get it.
Okay.
What the sister said is so true about the horror films. I'm not telling anybody not to enjoy your horror film. When we look at the psychology of it, I don't think that most of us ever really thought about it. We're the horror film. What I mean is, all the horror film is in a European's mind, they say, hey, I got a lot of money. I want to put out an idea of tell a story. And they tell a story of this monster that comes in. But just think about it. There's a group of people that's in the film that's doing fine, having a great time. Then this horrible monster comes and just starts killing and devastating and violating them. It's the exact same thing we're talking about right now with Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. We're the horror film. Here we are, African people living day to day, growing our natural food, living, trying to do better. Here comes somebody that's saying, hey, you got people that get sick sometime. Take this shot. I'm your friend. And what ends up happening when it's in a horror? Here comes these bases that are supposed to be helping protect the country. Next thing you know, these troops are running through your neighborhood, killing people and murdering and slaughtering, like we saw in the Congo. All of the 10 million people killed over, I forget how many years that war in the Congo was going on, all over the natural resources they're fighting and killing. We're a horror film in real life. So that idea that they come out and express in an artistic expression through a film, we know it all too well, because if we really look at our lives, how do we even get to England and America and these places where we are now? It was a horror film.
A serious horror film. How many hundreds of years of horror film?
That's right.
And we're still suffering the effects of it. We need a lot of time to heal.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Now, this will be the final point because I'm conscious of time. Now, in your presentation, you mentioned music, and you mentioned hip hop is virtually equals a death culture or death cult. Well, as we know at the moment, I think hip hop probably the most popular music on the planet. We can see it's a way that many, especially younger Black people, would say it's a way for them to express themselves and so forth. So could you just explain a bit more why you would say hip hop is equal to the death of the culture?
Yes. It kind of goes to what she was talking about before about a horror film. This is what happened. Hip hop came about probably roughly in the 1970s, got more popular in the 80s. By 86, you had groups like Stetsasonic that started taking this. Basically, all you had to have was a record player or something to play a beat, a DJ, and play a beat, and you would have somebody doing poetry over it. Stetsasonic comes and does the song Africa, AFRCIA, Angola, Soweto, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Zambia, Mozambique, and Botswana. So let us teach about the motherland. The song was called Africa. You can still watch the video on YouTube. Put in AFRICA, Stetsasonic. The young people started saying, hey, let's take this music and use it as a liberation tool, because they were studying under Dr. Joseph Ben Yakinen. They were studying under Baba Ashraquazi and Dr. John Henry Clark. They were studying under Dr. Dale Jones and Baba Steve Coakley and Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. So they were getting this information, and they said, hey, we can sneak these messages into the young people and give them a taste for liberation. And you can say more, since it's based in words. It's not like a song where you sing with a couple of choruses. It's all about poetry. So you can really teach in it. So it began to get used as a tool to be for liberation. And it began to get militant under a group called Public Enemy, KRS-One and Public Enemy in around 1987, 88. Then what happened is that there was a group that came out of the gang culture of the West Coast called NWA. They called themselves N-words with attitudes. At that time, we had a lot of the violence in our community. I'll be perfectly honest. I came from Washington, D.C. that was called the murder capital. And I can tell you it was a very violent place. I came from Southeast. That was the most violent part of Washington, D.C. But we never called ourselves N-words. We would insult somebody to fight them and call them that. It was always an insult. We never used it as standard language in a positive way. But in the gang culture in the West, they did. It was a part of the normal part of the culture for generations out there on the West Coast. And what happened is they started making music that glorified, for the first time, we had never seen this. We had heard a song where somebody had talked about doing harm to someone, but no one ever in our minds as young people thought that it was a good thing to kill a black person. We had no context for that. We didn't think that going to jail was good. What we used to do, if a person got locked up, then they would say, where you been at? And we would lie. Brothers would say, I went down to the country for visit my people for the summer. No, he got locked up. He didn't want to admit it because we were embarrassed behind something like that. This group came and changed the entire psychology of African people in America, and that has been exported worldwide. This group, NWA, came, financed by a Zionist named Jerry Heller. They began to glorify the murder of black people, glorify doing drugs, and glorify the violation and abuse of black women. Again, we didn't have music that glorified raping and molesting children in our community until NWA. Could there have been a song? If it was a song that was irrelevant because it wasn't popular. There was no culture that said it's acceptable to rape a woman until this group came out. The Zionists said, we don't want the young black people singing about Africa wearing African medallions because it's creating Zygmunt Brzezinski, and I think it was 1978, did a memorandum 46. You can put in memorandum 46 online. And he did it to, I forget the president at the time. And he gave this memorandum and said, what we absolutely don't want, it's called memorandum 46. You can find it on the internet. It's an official document. We must stop African people in America from connecting to African people on the continent and joining and unifying, because it could create a true Pan-Africanism that could be a problem for our interest in Africa. This is an actual memorandum from Zygmunt Brzezinski. It's called Memorandum 46. So with that in mind, they said this hip-hop music is being used as a tool that could potentially become explosive and revolutionary, particularly with Public Enemy, the New York-based information-based, knowledge-based, X-Clan, Brand Nubian, this whole style of teaching about our culture through this genre of music. So what they said is, we're going to finance NWA, and we're going to ask them to make more music about killing Black people. We're going to let them get rich doing it. They can talk about doing drugs, alcohol, poor behavior, low standards of living, wearing their pants off their behind, raping women, violating Black women, wanting to sleep with white females, anything negative that's not productive to Black people. We will not only finance them to do it, but if you want to get into hip hop or the entertainment industry, these are the things you will be able to get millions of dollars in a contract to do. At some point, once they start doing that, they began to remove the contracts and the benefits from the public enemy. So if you had something positive to say, they removed you. And the only people who would get financing were people that glorified murder of Black people, doing drugs, and the rape of Black women, and the destruction of the culture. From about 1992 till now, that is the entirety of what the hip hop culture has been. To disrespect Black women, to glorify the destruction of high standards of living and morality for Black men and real manhood, protecting our men, women, and children. Remove any sense of progression, economic progression, development, science, math, or wanting to be a productive being. And then what they have done on the back end of that is now they've come in and said, now let's take the ideas that were in rock and roll, these satanic ideas, blood drinking, gang rape, drugs. They used to say, what they call it, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Let's take this whole satanic culture, implant it into hip hop, and then that'll be the only thing that will allow you to make money doing. So this was like the third phase of it. So what we see now is the only thing that the music does is not talented. They don't have, they're not saying anything that really makes sense. Is these slow, methodical beats talking about raping women, doing drugs, and killing Black people. And they have sold that same culture beyond the Black community, because these are Zionists who actually are oppressing whites as well. So they've taken us as the group that they've taken financial, economic control of, financed our children with their talent and their sound, and gotten them to create an expression that not only demoralizes the Black family, but they're actually selling it to whites and Asians and everybody to get involved in a death culture that if you listen to it, there's no way a logical, intelligent person can justify why anybody that is civilized on the planet should listen to these sounds, classify it as music, and justify that it's not child abuse and negligence to even listen to it for children, teenagers, or even as adults. It is a culture designed to do nothing but debase everything that is moral, decent, and I'm not even talking about perfection. I'm talking about it's designed to destroy basic civilized African interaction, man, woman, and child, destroy family, and put us in a position where we have nothing which we can stand on to defend our interests. As Black people, if you don't got family, what do you have to fight with? That's why children go to gangs, because if their families are not intact. So they gave us the dope, the drugs, and the alcohol to destroy the families. The music came and started lifting us up. Then they put the dope back into the music, put the filth into the music. So now people are listening to the music, doing the dope and the drugs. Then you got drugs, rape, abuse, killing, and that's all that it talks about. And so we have to push this aside and create something new. And what we will see is that our young people are vibrant and ready to live, but we have given them, my generation, we've given them a death system under which they can't possibly work themselves out of without us helping to do it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Welcome back, Brother Bini. Finally managed to get in. Brother Bini, if you can just unmute your mic for me. Yeah, just unmute your mic. Oh, I talked too early. He's gone again. Oh boy. Well. Okay, my sister as well. I just want to hear your thought quickly on that. And just to say, from what you're saying in hip hop, I think a similar thing happened in reggae music, because it went from a very conscious music to over the year that we can see the same influence came and the same, basically the same thing happened. Let me see if I can get Brother Bini just to make a comment.
Okay.
Can't unmute.
I think it's very clear that in our history of music, there has been a lot of uplifting opportunities for us to get our messages out there. But, you know, Brother Irritated Genie explained very well the stages of how that corruption came about. Because somebody could be at home or in a club or wherever it is, in a shopping supermarket, listening to music, only to find that one can get hooked on the beat. Knowing very well your mind is hearing this word and that word that doesn't go with the beat, but the person is still, you know, rocking and dancing to it. But that's gone down deep, very subconsciously. And I suppose it's deliberately designed to do that. But our people tend to bypass the words and don't think that they have to correct themselves or correct what it is that they're looking at, or have any code of standards, you know, to say, hold on a minute, I don't want filth in my body. I don't want filth in my temple. But if they had codes of practice, then they would know straight away, hold on, ban that, bun that isn't something that has to be part of my temple. But it's now to a point of, oh, you're making too much out of nothing. It's just music. It's just a word. It's not doing me anything. But everything has a vibration, and that vibration could be measured very succinctly in terms of how the impact is going to talk within your brain cells, within your body cells, within your organ cells, whether it's going to heal or be destructive. So it will be very destructive in order for us to continue to be hearing over a long length of time certain music. And they had a lot of things are hidden in the music, not just the words rapped about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's raising one's awareness in order to make sure that there is a code of conduct to be aware of this. Just like in the movies, in the cartoon, there's seedings of corrupted messages. Unfortunately, it's in the music as well. But it's for us to correct ourselves, our young people. You know, if you're going into a public space and you're hearing that kind of music, then, or it's on the radio, because some radio stations play that, and all of a sudden it's okay to play that. No, it's not. Look at codes and standards. It's not acceptable.
All right. Yeah, I'm just eager to bring Brother Bini in, because I know you've been dropping out quite a bit. So I don't know how much of the conversation I heard while he was away. Bini. Bini, can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, you're coming through now. You're coming through. Yeah, as we're coming to the end, I'd just like you to give a comment in terms of what you've heard and some of the topics that we've covered.
Oh.
I don't believe this. It's not our day. It's not our day. Well, again, like I'm saying now, we went way over our time, but it was worth it. The information is absolutely fantastic, and I can see the numbers have remained with us, because I'm sure the information they are getting today is eye-opening. So what I like to do now is just to sum up in the last summing up. I'll start with Empress. Devine, then I'll ask then Brother Genie just to sum up the whole evening and the whole topic. I know there's one thing that you said, we don't dwell on the victories that our people have achieved so much as the failures. Those, we always seem to be talking about the bad aspect and the bad news and what went wrong. And we very rarely promote, or we should be promoted a lot more of the things we have done, the things we have achieved. So I just like Brother, Sister Empress, just Brother Bini is back again. All right, Brother Bini, since you're back again, I'll put you back in the chat room.
Well,
that's it. Just carry on.
Yeah, we keep on jumping out. Okay,
yeah.
I think one of the greatest weapons the Luciferian picnic them deliver on black people on this planet is psychological warfare. And that psychological warfare, they can use the music to deliver the education system, all matter of things, so they can keep us off track. So we constantly follow their way of life. And the more we get away from their lives and deal with our African spirituality and our form of meditation and so, we can then clean up our mind and our body from this enemy psychological warfare that waging on us. And I know that is one of the things they're doing everything, to get the young people to accept the white terrorist culture that they're unleashing on us as a people. So we need to be very much aware that we got to go to the road of spirituality. Once we start practicing our African spiritual system, that will help us a great deal to counter the white terrorist psychological warfare that they are teaching on us. So that's one of the things we have to do. The young people, they need to listen more to those of us who have been engaged in struggle a long time. That's why brothers like Genie that are still pushing out there and raising issue of the warfare against us. And this warfare, we mustn't, I'm saying to the listeners, they mustn't take it lightly. This is both psychological, physical, emotional. They are stepping up their games on us in terms of this battle for the mind of African people. So what I was aware of the other day, I see Bill Gates all the way down there in Jamaica with that idiot Prime Minister Oldie. Was at I think it was the government house or parliament. What was he doing down there? Must be there bribing and holding to allow them to come and vaccinate our people. I can remember ages ago, organization, right, African government, the question about these vaccines that are going on in Africa. And the only people who answered back about whether sterilization was, believe it or not, it was the Kenyan government. And they said they're aware of it because Britain got a big lab there experimenting on people. I'm talking about the chemical warfare on our people. Madagascar didn't have knees now. Now all of a sudden they go down, they go start injecting, and they keep 1,000 kids have measles. They went up to Nigeria, 150. 1,000 people in Nigeria, children die of measles. They go to Congo doing the vaccine program. 1,500 of us die. So our role in going to Congo is to heighten the awareness of this biological warfare psychological warfare and this vaccine warfare that these.
Oh.
Wow. Wow. Gone again. Anyway, like I said, we're coming to the close. So in a minute, I don't know if Sister Devine, you could just give a summation of what you thought of the actual meeting today. And it was an honor having you. Yeah, I must admit, pleasure having you. So,
Well,
and then after you finish, I'll just ask Brother Genie to do the same to cap off the evening for us.
Well, thank you again for inviting me. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor. I feel that we have a future where we can join up the dots, and we have agriculture, culture, health, business. We've got science and technology. We've got education. We've got so many different aspects that we can put together so that we can be more self-sufficient, be a family again, so that we can stand on our own grounds, whether we be at home or yard. It doesn't matter where we are, so that we can move forward to the 21st century with strength. In order to do that, we need to keep dialoguing. We need to be supporting each other, whether you call it the Black Pound or our economical aspect of flourishing. We can do it. We are inventors. We are entrepreneurs. We're all of the amazing things of history. That is what we are. We are the ancestors return to put things right.
Okay, that's brilliant. So I know Bini keep jumping in and out. We're just about summing up now. So I'd just like you just to finish off what you were saying quickly, and then we'll go to Brother Genie just to close off the evening for us. Oh, yeah, Bini, can you hear me? Hello? No, I don't look like he's hearing.
That's right.
Bini. Okay. Yeah, could you do just a brief summary for us, because we're just coming to the close now, and after which I'll ask Brother Genie to actually do the final summing up.
Yeah, I was just saying that, because we have all the psychological warfare and biological warfare and leeches. Yeah? Yes, I can hear you.
Oh. Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
let's
hear
carry
me
on.
now,
Let's carry on.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
hello?
let's carry on.
Yes.
Yeah. That's fine. We can hear.
Yeah.
We can hear. Let's carry on.
We're not muted yet, so I don't know what's going on.
No, we can hear you clear. We can hear you clear. I know there's a delay sometime, but just carry on. Just finish what you're saying.
Okay. Go ahead, because I keep on having problems with this computer. Genie.
Okay.
Wake up there.
Right. Okay, in that case, then I'll just ask Brother Genie just to conclude the evening for us, because the information you have given is absolutely tremendous.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thinking that there's a time now that's happening. There's a new paradigm shift in the African world, and we need to just seize the time and focus on supporting one another.
Okay, that's brilliant. So let's ask Brother Genie just to, he's gone again. So sum up for us.
Okay. What I would say, and I'm gonna go to the point that you had made when I was saying that we don't celebrate the victories enough. I remember 2015 2013, I was working federal government. So I had my spook who sat by the door. I had my government job here that was financing the real work that I do on this side. And I remember in order to get me fired, they put the information on national TV and it went international, CNN and all this kind of stuff. Who he is, this person. They put me all over TV, all over the world. So, of course, I ended up losing that job and, continue to do what I was doing. But what I noticed was in 2015, when I went to Bermuda and gave that lecture, and the way the people responded, and then I was banned from coming back to the country, it was all over the media in Bermuda. And so I expected, you know what? I'm going to contact the Black media outlets because I want Black media to have the first option to tell this story so that people know what's happening. And what I was shocked by, and I didn't realize this was a wise decision, but none of the major white media outlets covered it. Why? Because anytime a Black man says that Black men and women and children should be together as a family and support each other economically and gets banned from a country, that's not a good thing for the whites. That's a victory for Black people because it says you have somebody that's telling the truth so much that it frightens them. None of them covered it. But what really, truly shocked me was that here I was making the sacrifices. I lost my regular job, $115,000 a year. Here it is. We got a victory in Bermuda. The people voted against legalizing it right after that. The next couple of weeks, they voted that way. And yet no major Black media platform would cover it. Then in 2017, 2 years later, when they voted the whole white government out, no Black media around the world would cover it, particularly in America. And I said, this is very interesting. When we're winning battles, nobody wants to talk about that. But anything that's happening negative, anytime the LGBT wins a victory or something in that way, they're glorifying this all across the media. And when I start realizing, I get it. I said, I get it. When we read about victories, we become confident that we can have victories. We begin to take the personality of those who fought and won, and we begin to win. So what they do, they ignore our history altogether. But if they do tell us the history, they'll only tell us about Martin Luther King, and they may tell us about Malcolm X, but they'll remind us that they were killed. They won't tell us about the ones who didn't die, who died of old age. Don't tell us about Robert F. Williams. You'll never hear his name mentioned. They won't even bring up the name Garvey. His name won't come up unless we bring it up. And so they keep these names down because they don't want us to be empowered with these kinds of people and with these kind of ideas. Ida B. Wells Barnett. They don't tell us these names of the champions, the Rosa Parks. They don't tell us that, these people who were really militant people who've been presented as something different. If they mention them, they gloss over them and they don't tell the story. So what I would say to that is, I have found that when we talk about the problems, it's good because our people need to know what they're facing, but it kind of demoralizes and takes away some of our hope. But then when we talk about the victories, the same people who were sitting there down, it's just a magic that happens in our people. It's like the Haru story. Sarah said Haru story. When we talk about the victories and the things we've done to fight back, even if we didn't get a full victory, it inspires our people. And then we become active and go in the right direction. So I think we need, at this point, because we are in a state of warfare, we need to study the book, The Irritated Genie, which is about the Haitian Revolution. We need to study the victories. We need to know about the Maroons in Jamaica. We need to know about Boukman Duddy and Makandal and Fatima and Christophe and the great General Jean-Jacques Dessalines. We need to know about Zumbi of Palmares. We need to know about all of these magical victories. Chairman Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton and the Black Panther Party and what they've done. There's so many brothers and sisters in Europe, in England, that I learned about when I was there. I don't remember the names right now, but they fought for those. I should know those names too. We got to start sharing the names of these freedom fighters. We got to remember them, talk about them, bring them back alive, so that that becomes the context when we go out here and fight. We're not even concerned. We know we're going to win because we're doing what our ancestors did. We're them. They won. They were winners. Then we're winners too. And then we have a different context of what we're doing as opposed to what I see far too often. Man, there's nothing we can do. We can't possibly win. They're too powerful. They appear powerful because the Europeans have a strategy, and I'm going to end with this. And I'm saying we need to think about some of the things they do because they work. The Europeans completely eliminate any losses that they have from history, and they maximize their victories. And as an African people, I don't think we should eliminate the losses or the mistakes or the errors because we need to learn from them. But we need to do the same. That we need to maximize our victories, extend those victories, and make those victories part of our personality and consciousness so that we know we're going to be victorious. The last thing I'll say in closing is that the 21st century, which we are in now, is marked and marred in warfare. If you don't like that, you were born at the wrong time. That is what we're facing. And it's marked in a type of warfare where we are in a very favorable physical position, but not a mental and psychological condition. And so what we have to do is keep our physical bodies good, keep the positioning that we have internationally there, work on our internal infrastructure, work on our health, work on our psychological recognition of being African and how we can unify and prepare ourselves for victory in a battle for African dominion on this planet in the 21st century, which I'm firmly convinced we will be able to do this century.
Okay, thanks. And we have run right at the time. So again, I'd like to thank Empress Devine and Elder Bini. And of course, I'd like to thank Irritated Genie as well. They've made this evening absolutely fascinating. And I know just looking at the figures, people have been captivated. And it was absolutely a pleasure doing this meeting with you. And I hope it's the first of many things that we can do together. So until next week, viewers and everybody, we'll be back again 6 p.m. next week on PACMTV. So until next Sunday, I bid you all farewell, and I'll just play out with the same way we came in.